The Pirate Journey of Arceus. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 676. Why are you here? Master Holy Beast. It seems to be a bait. Someone wants to deliberately lead the pirates to that island. Shaina took the bottle brought by Miawana and Wolf and checked the contents. In addition to a sea map near the island, there was also a permanent pointer tied to the bottle. Carnival Island is the only entertainment venue on the Grand Line. Carnival parties are held on the island every day. There are abundant hot springs and beauty salons. Beauties from all over the world will accompany you to spend a good night at night. Is this a full fishing with a straight hook? Shaina, read the contents of the note. Women, treasures, food. The island seems to have everything, and you can enjoy them as long as you go to the island. In addition, the pirate among the pirates and the pirates in front of him. The meaning of provocation is very obvious. Such things are not uncommon on the Grand Line. Some bounty hunters will gather together to forge similar carnival islands, lead the pirates there, and then entertain them warmly, and wait until everyone is drunk before taking action. Miawana, Wolf, where did you find this? In Shaina's opinion, this bait is stupid, but every year countless pirates take the bait. Some are naive, and some go to the target island with the purpose of robbery. As for what will happen in the end, it depends on personal strength. I fished it out of the sea. We were fishing, but my brother suddenly caught this strange thing. The brother and sister described the specific situation one by one. Although they are only 3.5 years old, the children of the fur tribe are not ordinary kids. They can easily knock down ordinary adults. This is even more true for Miawana and Wolf. They have not yet acquired their abilities, but they have inherited some of their parents' powers. The power of Lava Guide is not so easy to develop, but the power of thunder and lightning is different. The electrical energy in the two of them is stronger than that of ordinary adult fur tribes. And this is also related to their mother's education. Now the two of them are the third generation of the very few beasts, so they naturally have no worries about food and drink, but some survival skills have been taught. The education of the moments is still the traditional way of the minks, and in the life of the minks, fishing in the fire-breathing rain is the basic survival of the minks. So the two of them have already learned the skill of fishing, and their success rate is even higher than that of Peggy 1. Sometimes they will directly electrocute fish. Aunt Shaina, can we go to this island? Carnival seems to be a very interesting thing. They are not very literate, but Shaina has read it all out. They didn't take Shaina's complaints to heart, but became interested in the party. Wait a minute, Carnival Island Emmeline. Is there this island on the route? Shaina shouted to the side. There was no one on the deck, which did not mean that they all disappeared. They just kept a certain distance appropriately, and they could still hear the orders. No, big sister, this island is not marked on the nautical chart, and the record pointer does not point there. It should be an island on other routes. After crossing the upside down mountain, the four seas can enter the Grand Line, but there is not one route to the Sabaody archipelago on the Grand Line, but 7. The magnetic attraction of the islands on these routes is stronger. If you only rely on the record pointer to move forward, there will be no cross-line situation, unless there is a special eternal pointer. The sea chart is not very meaningful in the Grand Line, because it is difficult to distinguish the direction without the record pointer. You may get lost in the sea on a rainy day, but the sea chart is not useless. It can at least let people know what the next island is. People who have just entered the Grand Line do not have such a thing, but the beasts are different. They look for things every day, and have their own marks on many islands. No. Lord Saint Beast, do you want to change the course? This seems to be an unknown island. The islands that are not recorded have a higher priority for the beasts, but this is not their scheduled route, and the final decision-making power is still in the hands of Arceus. Turn, if these two little guys want to go, just have fun. Let the people on the ship take it as a vacation. The journey to find the stone slab is not always smooth. It is good to find the stone slab, but there is nothing you can do if you can't find it. You can only continue to search for the next target. The process of sailing is very boring, and the lives of these pirates also need to be adjusted. It is not bad to have such an island for holding parties. As for whether it is bait, there is no fishing rod that can catch the origin. Understood. I will arrange it now. After receiving the order, the origin began to turn. This may be a trap, but no one took it seriously. The military force of this ship was not afraid of any conspiracy in the first half of the Grand Line. The mark of the Thousand Universe wrist fluttered in the wind, and the origin headed towards the new destination. The location of the island is not very far. In a few days, a tropical island appeared in their sight. At the moment of landing, Arceus sensed a familiar breath. It was not the breath of the stone slab, but the breath of the Pokémon he created. At this time, the space in front of them twisted. A black hole appeared in front of everyone, and Arceus appeared in front of them. Your Excellency, why are you here? I was just passing by. How did you get here? I remember the last time you contacted me was in the North Sea, right? How long has it been since you finished exploring there? When I created you, I shouldn't have added any strange attributes to you. This is a coincidence. I just arrived nearby, and then I felt a very strange breath on the island, the breath of the dead. I think this place may be related to the entrance to that world. But before I had time to explore, I found that Your Excellency was here too. Coincidence means that he himself didn't know how he got here. When Darkrai was on the road, he often borrowed black holes, but the magnetic field of this world was very chaotic, which caused him to often make mistakes in positioning. At least on the same island, Darkrai still had a strong sense of direction. That's quite a coincidence. Let's go and see what you noticed. Shaina, take the others to the island and move freely. We've been sailing for a long time. Rest here for 2 days. Remember to keep an eye on the 2 little guys. I understand. Please feel free to do as you please. I will take good care of them. Arceus said this, obviously not finding what he wanted. Arceus had already made arrangements, so she just had to do it. According to the map in the drifting bottle, there should be other things on the island, so Arceus and Darkrai walked towards the center of the island, and Shaina also led the people on the origin into the rainforest on the island. Chapter 677 Undead. Miana, Wolf, stop running around, follow me obediently, or I'll let Shanshan spank you when we go back. The rainforest seemed to have aroused the wildness of the 2 little guys. As soon as they entered here, they became very curious about the surroundings. Not long ago, she saw Shanshan taking the children out and tied a rope around their waists. At that time, she thought Shanshan was a strange mother, but now she understood her feelings. Either someone should watch them, or tie a rope, otherwise these 2 little guys can run away without a trace in a minute. Especially Miana. Although she is a girl, she is harder to find than Wolf when she runs. She seems to have a talent for climbing trees. It seems that she feels that it is not safe. Shaina simply handed them over to Jigglypuff and forbade Jigglypuff to let go. You are all old men, and I don't want to waste time talking. The order of the Holy Beast is to have a good rest and relax, but take it easy. If something special happens, who dares to slack off? Don't blame me for being ruthless. The number of people on the origin this trip is 200, not many, but they are all elite, and the friendship among the companions in the Beast Pirates is relatively the least. Only the first ones can be barely called companions, and the ones after that are more subordinates. If you can't prove your ability, then the superiors may not even remember your name. These people are regarded as the trusted troops of Shaina, but there is still a certain gap between them and companions. Only Emmeline and Shaina have a better personal relationship. This situation is not an exception, unless it is a small pirate group with only dozens of people. The people on the ship are naturally familiar with each other. But these large pirate groups often have tens of thousands of people, and they are composed of small groups inside. People with similar strength and status are more likely to develop friendships. Even the captain can't remember the names of all his subordinates. Of course, among the many cadres, Shaina is relatively friendly to her subordinates, provided that her bottom line is not touched. Don't worry, big sister, we all understand. Yes, after all these years, don't you know us? Their tone was very relaxed. As long as the night watchmen did not all die suddenly, they would be able to deal with 90% of the situations, and Shaina would need to take action in the remaining 10%. As for Arceus, unless it was an extremely special situation like Uanquin, he didn't need to do it himself here. If Arceus could take action against any random person, it would be an insult to these pirates. Soon, there was a sound of music in the forest ahead, and a carnival park appeared in their eyes. The leader was a man riding an elephant with a strange tropical hairstyle on his head, but the most important thing was that he had a strange flower on his shoulder. The flower had a smile like a human face, and the people who appeared next to him also had a characteristic, that is, they all had 2 petals of grass growing on their heads. All the pirates galloping on my grand line. I'm the master of this island, Carnival Baron. I will be responsible for entertaining you from now on. Enjoy the carnival. But before that, you must accept the hell trial here. Big sister, I don't feel any strong people, and the leader doesn't have a strong aura. What should we do? Emmeline asked beside Shaina. Although there are many people on the other side, most of them are ordinary people. If necessary, she is confident that she can lead the team to deal with these people within 10 minutes. Let's play with the 2 little guys for a while. You can arrange it. I didn't expect there would be this thing here. Shaina's attention was all on the flower on the shoulder of Carnival Baron, which made Emmeline feel a little strange. Shaina still maintained the change of form, but the mask would not cover her eyes. Based on Emmeline's understanding of Shaina, Shaina seemed to want that thing. Big sister, how about? No need, I have to observe it again to be sure. I haven't seen this thing for many years. You should enjoy the party. I'll just keep an eye on it here. At Shaina's signal, the pirates of the beasts rushed to participate in each other's games, not because they loved playing, but to show off themselves. Arceus has his own preference. More than a decade ago, the object of this preference was Yamato, which was well known to everyone in the beasts. As Yamato grew older, the previous situation of coaxing children naturally disappeared. But with the birth of Miawana and Wolf, Arceus's preference has slightly shifted to them. In the past, except for Yamato, Arceus would not take other children out to play during the search for stone tablets. This trip to Carnival Island obviously means taking care of the 2 children, and their parents are the top carder and the carder second only to the top carder in the pirate group, respectively. Letting them remember themselves will be beneficial to their development. Fishing for goldfish, hooping, and various other weird games appeared on Carnival Island. The results were not important, but the 2 children had a lot of fun, even though they were basically just pendants in the game. The project continued, and some pirates from the beasts also chatted with the Baron's men, and in the process, they discovered some strange things. Hey? Are you kidding? Haven't you heard of the beasts? I haven't heard of it. Is it a famous pirate group? You guy. At first, Emmeline thought that the other party didn't recognize the pattern of the Thousand Universe arm. After all, the sea was still dominated by Kaido's flag. But when they had no reaction to the beast's pirate flag, Emmeline felt that things were not that simple. But this is not the most critical point. The sea is very vast, and there are many ignorant pirates in the first half. The next topic is what aroused Emmeline's suspicion. We are also famous pirates, the Red Arrow Pirates. Have you heard of them? We met Goldo Roger not long ago. She didn't know about the Red Arrow Pirates, but she knew Roger's reputation. Roger? He has been dead for 16 years. How is that possible? We met him not long ago. He was an amazing figure, the first man to conquer the Grand Line, on that stormy night. The stormy night was particularly strong. At this point, he suddenly stopped. His expression became terrified. The leaves above his head began to wither. A lot of sweat slid down his forehead. His skin began to shrink, gradually turned blue-purple, and finally became like a dried zombie. It seems that I was right. These people are dead. Big sister? What's going on? Looking at Shaina behind him, Emmeline asked in confusion. Chapter 678. Possessed by the Riddler. This is a very long story. It's better for you not to know some things. Anyway, these people died a long time ago, and their memories are stuck in more than 10 years ago. Is that so? Then these people were resurrected. This can explain why these people knew nothing about the beasts. When Roger just became the Pirate King, the beasts had not yet reached the top, but was just a stronger pirate group in the New World. The execution of Goldie Roger was known to everyone on the sea. Whether it was pirates or navy, civilians, or villains, they all knew that Roger had been executed by the world government. These members who called themselves the Red Arrow Pirates knew nothing about this, which was obviously not in line with common sense. If they were dead before Roger died, then everything would make sense. But if they had died a long time ago, then what were these people in front of them? The word resurrection appeared in Emmeline's mind at this time, but it was quickly rejected by Shaina. It's not resurrection, they don't have that ability yet. It's just an alternative taboo use. Be prepared, it may be very strenuous in a while. A ball of fire appeared in Shaina's palm. After a simple compression, she threw the flame directly into the sky. The flame exploded like fireworks in the sky. The pirates scattered around also saw the cross flame in the sky. They dropped what they had in their hands and gathered towards the location of the flame. This is the gathering signal of the beasts. Even if they don't know the reason, they gather here. Big Sister, is the enemy difficult to deal with? Except for Arceus and Darkrai who are unknown where they went, the two are the highest combat power on the ship. If they can't even deal with them, there is no point in summoning their subordinates. At this time, a signal for help should be sent, but Shaina is just summoning her subordinates. We have to try it to know, but don't worry. I haven't heard of the Red Arrow Pirates more than a decade ago. This ability doesn't enhance our strength, but it's very troublesome. This is just to prevent accidents. Soon, the pirates of the beasts gathered. Meowna and Wolf were also brought here by Jigglypuff. They were surrounded by members of the Red Arrow Pirates. As for the pirate who had changed, he was lying on the ground like a corpse. In terms of human definition of life, he has lost all signs of life. The expressions of those people looking at the corpse on the ground were a little strange, but they looked accustomed to it. In their cognition, this seemed to have become a normal state. There was only one exception. The owner of the island, Baron Carnival, saw his subordinates turned into corpses and his face became very ugly. The break is over. Let's continue the hell trial. You really can't wait. Meowna, Wolf, have you two had enough fun? Yeah, that big fish is so interesting. Those people are so interesting too. Some look like Kappa. Facing the Baron's words, Shaina was not nervous, but asked the two children if they had enough fun. After getting a positive answer, she also changed her attitude. Since you have had enough fun, then you should behave yourself. The adults have to do their own things. Everyone, defend the formation. The first goal next, protect yourself. Emmeline, you and Jigglypuff take good care of the two little guys. Big Sister, aren't you going to annihilate them? Shaina's order was a little strange to them. It was clearly meant to start a war, but they chose to defend. This was a very rare example in the past experience of the beasts, and the enemy was an unknown enemy. You can't kill the dead. I need to find something. You may have to hold on for a while. Understood. Shaina's words were a little strange today, but this did not affect their execution of orders. They quickly formed a semicircular square. Are you going to give up the trial and start to resist? Don't talk nonsense. The game is over. I don't want to waste time. Where is the body of the flower? What are you talking about? The body of what flower? Hearing Shaina's question, the Baron's expression suddenly stiffened, and his expression was no longer relaxed. It seemed that the biggest secret was discovered, and he quickly denied it. Don't pretend. The lily carnation on your shoulder has already explained everything. These plant puppets are the most taboo to use. Shut up. What nonsense are you talking about? A longbow suddenly appeared in the Baron's left hand, and strange plant vines appeared on his right hand, and eventually turned into a bow and arrow. Go. After the arrows were shot out, they suddenly turned into a rain of arrows, drawing several arcs in the sky, and shooting towards Shaina. Other subordinates also stepped on skateboards, and charged towards the pirates of the beasts. It seems that I was overthinking about this level of attack. Looking at the flying arrows, Shaina felt relieved, and didn't even make any defensive moves. The arrows were burned to ashes, just when they approached her. Just when she was about to capture the Baron, to ask about the whereabouts of the flower, a huge black pipe in the center of the island suddenly waved wildly, and seemed to emit bursts of wailing. This breath. Damn. It was not a black pipe, but the body of the flower that Shaina was looking for. Now there was a very familiar energy fluctuation coming from there. With her wings spread, Shaina flew over there. The strength of the Baron was not a threat. Emmeline was more than enough to deal with him, but this opportunity might not come again in the future. Lily. Seeing the strange scene in the center of the island, the Baron also panicked and rushed in that direction as well. However, he was destined to be unable to catch up with Shaina's speed as he could not fly. The leaders of both parties disappeared here, but the people who stayed here were not affected and soon fought each other. After this fight, Emmeline understood what was going on. Those people were very weak and had no way to face these elite beasts, but their bodies were different from those of ordinary people. Just now, her arm turned into a sickle blade and chopped on a person. Even a body made of rock would be split in two by her, but that person did not suffer any damage except for the gap in his clothes. The battles of other people also had the same result. Whether they were chopped by knives or axes, those people would only be knocked away without being injured. After repeating this several times, some people became strange corpses like the first person. Seeing this situation, they no longer fought hard, but launched a defensive counterattack. On the other side, in the center of the island, looking at the giant flower stem in front of him, a trace of loss flashed across Darkray's exposed single eye. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty, this is not what I thought. Lord Holy Beast, show mercy, don't touch that thing yet." Chapter 679 Father and Mother, the correct use of Lily Carnation. The voice came before the person arrived. Shaina's voice came from a distance, and then it stopped in front of Arceus. "Shaina? What's the hurry? This is not like you." Looking at Shaina, who was a little hurried, Arceus felt it was very abnormal. Since leaving the laboratory that year, he had never seen Shaina so anxious. She seemed to be afraid of accidents. "Sorry, Master Holy Beast, I lost my temper, but this thing is too rare. I didn't expect to have a chance to see it again." Seeing that the plant in front of her was still in a complete state, Shaina finally put her mind at ease. What she wanted was in it. "Are you interested in this plant?" Arceus and Darkrai arrived here before. Darkrai originally thought that the breath here was similar to the breath of the kingdom of the dead, but when he came here, he found that he was wrong. This is not the entrance to the underworld, but a stronghold of the undead. This strange plant intercepted the souls of the dead with some unknown characteristics, and they were incomplete souls. The wailing of the plant just now was the pain that Darkrai brought to the plant when he tried to find the entrance. "Lord Holy Beast, the name of this plant is Lily Carnation. A long time ago, our tribe called it the mother's flower to express the strong family affection and family yearning, and it was also our way of remembering the past. But later, the enemy attacked, the number of tribesmen became fewer and fewer, and this flower gradually disappeared during the long journey. I didn't expect that there were still seeds left here." In front of Arceus, she didn't hide anything, and directly told her memory about the flower. Emmeline knew that the matter about Lunaria was meaningless, and would only bring danger to herself. There was still Darkrai here, but as a creature created by Arceus, Shaina was not on guard against him. "Is the body of this flower a little too big?" Looking at the hundreds of meters of plant roots, Arceus didn't quite understand how the Lunarians cultivated this flower at the time. He didn't pay attention to such things. "No, Lord Holy Beast, this is the wrong way to cultivate it. Only when taboos are violated will Lily Carnation become like this. This is not its real use. I just want to get its seeds from here. This is not the real entity either. It's just that people in the past couldn't think of a suitable name, so they said so. Lily Carnation can be divided into two parts. In this wrong way, the flower and consciousness will live in the human body and absorb nutrients through the roots and stems of this entity. If it is destroyed, the flower will not die, but will be transferred to another part, but the seeds bred in it will be destroyed. It's just that this kind of flower looks huge, but in fact the seeds are very fragile. If you are not careful, they will be destroyed. Special methods must be used to take them out, so I was a little anxious. Please forgive me." "It's okay, do whatever you want. Darkrai has already confirmed that thing." "Then I will. Stay away from it." Before Shaina made any move, a roar suddenly came from behind her. The carnival baron had just come over the mountains and saw that they were planning to attack the top of Lily Carnation Mountain. He immediately roared in anger. The bow in his hand shot several arrows again, but those arrows were sucked together by the black hole thrown by Darkrai. "Master Holy Beast, let me handle it. I will take care of it." After getting Arceus's consent, Shaina looked at the huge rhizome, then her palm ignited with flames and stabbed at a position. The burning fire on her shoulder began to burn the body of the plant. The burning of flames was the special method she mentioned. Before the Baron could react, the small flower on his shoulder suddenly made a shrill cry. But it was useless. There were already several more seeds in Shaina's palm, and the seemingly huge and hard part of the plant suddenly turned into ashes. Then Shaina made a gun gesture with one hand and shot a line of fire at the flower on the Baron's shoulder. After the outer body was destroyed, the flower on his shoulder would become extremely fragile, no different from the wildflowers on the roadside, and ordinary people's attacks could also destroy it. At that moment, the members of the Red Arrow pirates who had originally besieged the members of the beast stopped their actions and then turned into plants that could not move. Looking at the wreckage of Lily Carnation falling on his shoulder, the Baron's emotions almost collapsed. Lily, you don't die. If you die, my friends. He wanted to extinguish the flames above, but it was useless. Shaina's flames mercilessly burned it to ashes. Wake up, they have been dead for a long time. Lily Carnation cannot revive the dead. It is just a thought body with the same behavior pattern and memory as them. You have also lured and killed many people over the years, serving as its nutrients, right? Looking at the wreckage of the surrounding ships, plus the size of the plants before, Shaina could roughly infer how many people died here. Arsehole, you don't know what this is. After the storm, they were able to survive only because of Lily. That is the flower of death and rebirth. If it weren't for you, they would have been resurrected. In the storm 16 years ago, all of the Baron's men died, and he accidentally discovered Lily Carnation here, and thus began his own actions. To maintain those people, he needed to rely on the lives of other people, so the Baron kept luring people to the island, and used them as feed for the flowers. Poor fool, I wish you and your companions can be reunited over there. The afterimage flashed, and Shaina broke the Baron's neck at a very fast speed, ending his life. He was called a fool because he madly induced others to die for some illusions, and he was called pitiful because of his concern and longing for his companions. After the storm, only one person survived, and he could not accept this reality, so he embarked on this path. But Shaina still killed him, and his way of feeding had violated the rules of the Lunaria people. Picking up a seed, Shaina cut her fingertips and let the blood drip on it. As the blood dripped, a seed quickly sprouted, but it did not have the smiling face of the flower on the Baron's shoulder. After the seed evolved into a bud, two figures also appeared behind the flower, with white hair and brown skin, pure black wings, and a blazing fire behind them. Everything was the characteristic of the Lunarians. Dad, Mom, long time no see this time, Shaina said the correct way, using her own blood as a guide, so that she could briefly see the blood relatives in her memory. Even if she knew it was an illusion, it could temporarily satisfy her longing in her heart. Chapter 680 Lunalia's Prayer, the concept of reversing the world. Girl, we don't know you. You must have recognized the wrong person. Yes, although we do have a daughter, she is only 4 years old. You are probably older than us. We don't have a daughter that old. Two members of the Lunalia tribe, a man and a woman, gave negative answers one after another, but Shaina didn't find it strange. She just lifted her ability to transform and revealed her original face. Yeah, are you my cousin's child? You really look a bit like Shaina. I hope she can be as beautiful as you when she grows up, dear, don't you think? The female Lunalia looked 80% like Shaina, but she was less resolute and more cute. At this time, she asked the male Lunalia next to her. That was her husband, Shaina's father. He had a cold face, and his eyes lacked luster. He had short white hair and a small amount of stubble on his chin. With a cigarette in his mouth, he was wearing a black windbreaker and a black suit inside. When he looked at his wife, he also showed a kind smile on his face. Of course, our daughter is the cutest in the world. Speaking of which, this girl really looks like my cousin. Of course, how could I be wrong? But they shouldn't be running in this direction. No. I remember we were besieged by the Navy. The woman suddenly felt a headache and began to recall the previous details. We encountered a storm on the way and later changed our course. We just happened to see you being besieged. Shaina and Abel followed the main force and hid in another place. I stayed to take care of you wounded. Don't worry, we will be able to reunite soon. Shaina did not choose to recognize her parents, but lead to fool the matter. Lily Carnation has a limitation. It cannot let the dead realize that they are dead. When they find that they are dead in their cognition, the effect of Lily Carnation will end. According to the records of the Lunarians, Lily Carnation is not a flower of rebirth, but a flower of remembrance. With its own strong vitality, their blood is enough to give birth to this flower, and the deceased in the memory will gradually appear as the flower grows, and eventually generate the false thought body in front of it. What the blood donor remembers, the thought body will also remember clearly. After all, they are formed by the memory of the blood donor. It's just that the memory of the thought body lasts only until death at most, and there is no way to fill it after that. But this is not the most amazing thing. The amazing thing is that these thought bodies are not just memories, but will generate unique AI based on those memories and operate in a special way. This makes the thought body more like a living person. Their operating mode is as similar to that of the deceased as high as 90%, which is basically the same as that of a real person. This was originally the hunting method of Lily Carnation. They are a carnivorous plant that will hunt a group clean in this way. The Lunarians cultivated this flower and improved its usage, calling that wild hunting method taboo. They only remember their relatives in this way on their death anniversary. Even if they know it is fake, they find it difficult to refuse such a thing. This is also the reason why Shaina values the seeds of Lily Carnation so much. If she misses this opportunity, she doesn't know if she will find Lily Carnation in the future. Only the Lunaria tribe can do this. Their vitality is different from that of ordinary people, so they can remember their ancestors with their own blood. Even if ordinary people bleed to death, they may not be able to do this, and they are easily backfired by Lily Carnation. The Baron's behavior is a taboo of the Lunaria tribe. If a companion dies near Lily Carnation, it can create a more realistic body of thought, and there is no need to worry about any trouble caused by recognizing each other. But time is limited. If you want to maintain it, you have to keep feeding on the same kind of life. Life and death are separated, and that kind of getting along is like poison. Once it starts, it is difficult to stop, so the Lunaria tribe will always prohibit that kind of behavior. I see. I'm glad they're fine. Those pursuers are getting harder and harder to deal with. Girl, you have to be careful too. They didn't doubt Shaina's identity. Apart from the Lunaria tribe, there is no other race that can catch fire. Shaina has all the characteristics of the Lunaria tribe, including the tattoos. But it's a coincidence that your tattoo is what we want to tattoo our daughter. We hope she can grow up safely. Darkrai, go and notify the others and tell them not to come for the time being. Shaina had very little time to remove her disguise, and looking at the similar faces, you can guess what their relationship with Shaina is. Even if it's fake, it's a very beautiful memory. The original Lily Carnation has been destroyed, and the Red Arrow pirates have completely become history. In another world, they should still be partners on a ship, but the facilities on the island still exist. In order to trick others onto the island, the Carnival Baron spent a lot of effort to build those facilities, and they can still be used now. Yes, sir. Short distance movement would not trigger Darkray's loss buff. Arceus was not worried that Darkrai would run to some strange place, so he gave him the task with confidence. Time passed little by little, and the sun climbed out from the horizon again, and Shaina knew that the time was almost up. Goodbye, Dad, Mom. Abel and I are fine now. You don't have to worry about other things. The beauty of the past makes people miss it, but people can't be immersed in the past. Feeling that the time is almost up, Shaina burned the seeds in her hand into ashes, and the two thoughts began to become empty and turbulent. At this moment, they seemed to understand something. After showing a faint smile, they disappeared there silently. Sir, I'm sorry, I wasted a lot of time. The mask covered her face again, and the original thoughts had been covered up by her again, but the remaining seeds had been collected by her. No need to apologize, just wait. Time will prove many things, and when the remaining powers return one after another, I will realize your dream. Arceus has no intention of breaking this restriction between life and death. Otherwise the world will inevitably be in chaos, but in his complete state, he is the creator, and space and time are all his power. It is not easy to interfere with the original world, but it is not difficult for him to create a reversed world. He also has new arrangements for the reversed world. It will not be a ruined and destroyed world, but a brand new kingdom of God. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 681, The Painful Experience of Sleeping Next to Darkrai. Let's go. There shouldn't be anything you want on this island, right? Arceus walked towards the camp. The characteristics of the Grand Line gave birth to islands of various shapes, but these uninhabited islands always have some similarities. After the Red Arrow pirates returned to where they should go, this was just an ordinary tropical island, and there was nothing particularly attractive to him. I'll be there, Lord Holy Beast. Shaina was about to leave here with Arceus, but she looked at the body of the Baron of Carnival again. After thinking about it, she threw his body into the cemetery of the Red Arrow Pirates members, adding a new grave there. He used Carnival as bait, and had been hunting other people for more than 10 years, to maintain the existence of his partners. According to the consumption rate of Lily Carnation, the number of deaths was not small, and it was not a mistake to kill him. He was not a good person, but he was sincere to his partners, so Shaina spent a little time to bury him. It was not difficult for her. She could punch a suitable hole with one punch. The word partner has been playing an important role in the sea since the pirate era. There are violent groups like the Rocks Pirates, who have their own ulterior motives. The people on the ship can gather together entirely due to Rox's force. There is no friendship between them. There are also counter-examples. Moria is an example, but not the only one. The destruction of the Moonlight Pirates was a huge blow to him, and he is still in a state of collapse. After returning to the camp where the beasts gathered, these pirates have relaxed. Although the thoughts of the Red Arrow Pirates have immortal bodies, they can't cause harm to the members of the Beasts Pirates. The gap in strength between the two sides is too big. They have met Roger, but this does not mean that they have the corresponding strength. The men of the Carnival Baron think that their captain is stronger than Roger. This situation is very common in the world of pirates. Most people think that their captain is the strongest, and the ambitious Blackbird is no exception. The moment he chose to board Whitebird's ship was a gamble for him. If there was no dark fruit, he might have always played the role of a good son. With Lily Carnation being destroyed by Shaina, the battle here has come to an end. At the beginning, they did not relax their vigilance. Those unkillable monsters were still worthy of their careful treatment. It was not until Darkrai appeared that they let down their guard. These people were the same group of people who had mistakenly entered the underworld, and they were also the few people in the Beast Pirates who had seen Darkrai's true appearance. Arceus and Shaina had not returned here yet, so some people relaxed again. Hey, you really dare to drink that wine? Seeing the people around him pick up the rum on the table next to him and pour it into their mouths, someone showed a worried look. What's there to be afraid of? It's just alcohol. The rum here tastes pretty good. No, aren't you afraid of turning into that kind of monster? If drinking alcohol can make you immortal, I think it's a good thing. You are too cautious. Didn't Lord Darkrai say that the matter over there has been resolved? The big sister and Lord Arceus are there. What else can go wrong? It seems so. But why do you want to drink rum? Isn't there better alcohol? The man holding the bottle hesitated for a moment, then threw away the rum and began to look for other types of alcohol. Rum is very popular among pirates. One of the reasons is that rum is cheap and easier to store, which can alleviate the problem of freshwater storage on board. Not all pirates have exquisite pirate ships with their own power generation equipment and large refrigerators. The environment of the ships of small pirates is very bad. Fresh water will deteriorate in a short time, and some disgusting mucus bacteria will grow on it. In this case, cheap rum becomes their first choice. These indulgent pirates were the ones who took turns to rest. There were also pirates on guard nearby. In the past, they would envy the pirates who were resting, but today was different. After the battle, some people slept, while boasting and dreaming about their future. But today, all the pirates who fell asleep had nightmares, and screams could be said to be one after another. Seeing these people wake up in cold sweat, the pirates who were on night watch laughed out loud. Yo, another one. Tell me, what did you dream about again? I dreamed that brother Kaido wanted to practice with me after getting drunk. You're not bad. I dreamed that I found a stone slab, but it turned out to be fake. Listening to these people describing their nightmare experiences, the people who were not sleeping next to them laughed unkindly. The nightmares tonight were summarized together to compile a story collection. Only Darkrai in the shadows rubbed his forehead helplessly. He knew very well why these people had nightmares, but there was nothing he could do. That was his passiveness, and it was also the origin of his nickname, the Nightmare God. Nightmares are Darkrai's nourishment, and Darkrai can also actively pull people into nightmares, but at the same time, he also has a passive aura similar to the nightmare field. As long as you fall asleep within a certain range of him, you will unconsciously fall into a nightmare. This is Darkrai's nature, and it is also his way to protect himself and demarcate his territory. As long as he doesn't sleep, he will be fine, but if he falls asleep, he will definitely have nightmares, unless there are some special props to avoid the influence of nightmares. The two little guys were not affected. They were ridiculously energetic. Like ordinary children, they only slept about 6 hours a day. Even if they played all day during the day, they were still very excited and were fighting each other at this time. The relationship between the brother and sister was not always friendly. Sometimes this situation would occur. They would fight for something. The two were siblings, and the battle was still in a state of equal strength. Setsuna did not stop them, and even encouraged this kind of fighting. As long as they did not hold grudges afterwards, they could do whatever they wanted. The fighting power of the Fur Tribe teenagers was almost all trained in this kind of fighting. People who were awakened by nightmares kept coming one after another until Arceus and Shaina returned here. Your Excellency, you are back, so I will continue to look for that thing. Go ahead, don't be too obsessed with the route. Some things are just up to you, and the location of the entrance is not fixed. Point understood. Darkrai didn't say anything. He turned into a black shadow and disappeared from the island after a twist. As for where he went, I'm afraid he himself didn't know. Chapter 682, Lot Kappa and the Disappearing Egg of Happiny. In February of the 1515th year of the Heian calendar, the Origin returned to Onigashima. During the nearly half-year voyage, they sank about a dozen pirate groups and destroyed 2 naval surveillance ships. Apart from that, no large-scale conflicts broke out. The intelligence department of the Navy analyzed the route of the Origin and searched the past areas, but they couldn't figure out why the other party took that route. Even if they racked their brains, they couldn't think that the Origin's mid-course turn was just to coax the children. And now the Origin is very lively, and for some people who are not used to it, it is even close to noise. BB, Lubibi, BB. A creature that looks very similar to a kappa is dancing awkwardly, and it keeps singing a strange tune. The body is similar to a rugby ball, looks furry, and looks very similar to a variant of a kappa. It is a Pokémon created by Arceus on the way back. Lot Pokémon, Lot Kappa. After leaving Carnival Island, Meowth and Wolf often missed the game with the member who looked like a kappa, so Arceus created the Rakuten Kappa to play with the two children. Rakuten Kappa itself is a composite attribute of grass and water. It is green overall, but there is a layer of yellow fur on the surface of the body, and there are 2 brown zigzag stripes on it. The structure, similar to a raincoat, makes it look like a fisherman. A duck-like mouth, with a large lotus leaf on the top of the head, is singing a happy tune in the mouth at this time, holding Meowth and Wolf on the top of the head, clapping and dancing. Studies have shown that plants will also respond to external music, and cheerful music can accelerate the growth of plants. As a grass-type Pokémon, Rakuten Kappa has inherited this ability to a certain extent. Its cells are very special. The happy rhythm of music will activate Rakuten Kappa cells. As long as it hears happy music, the cells in its body will jump and be full of power, and its body will involuntarily sway with the rhythm and start dancing. This allows it to exert great strength in battle, and it will not shrink even when facing a strong enemy. For Lot Kappa, joyful music is a battle song. However, the music is not always available, so Lot Kappa will hum this tune to enhance its own strength. Its energy is much more abundant than that of Jigglypuff, and it can perfectly cope with the abundant physical strength of Meowth and Wolf. Lot Kappa, you take the two little guys back to Giulia's home. You two should also be obedient and don't run around. I have already notified your father. If you run around, you will be caught soon. Got it, Lord Arceus. X2 beep. Lot Kappa was about to jump into the water and swim back to Giulia along the river. Just now, it had learned the specific direction of Giulia, but before it could jump into the water, it was pulled back by others. No need, Master. I've been here for a long time. Sorry for bothering you during this time. Just as Lot Kappa and the brother and sister responded, Zerora appeared here. Arceus' return was no secret. Within a few minutes, the entire Onigashima knew that the origin had returned. Zerora had naturally been waiting here for a long time, ready to catch the two little guys and take them home. With the example of Setsuna, he was very wary of the two little guys playing runaway. They seemed to regard that kind of escape as hide and seek, and they were very fond of this game. They often disappeared from their families. The wild education of the fur tribe often made Zerora feel a headache. The two little guys were taken home by Zerora, and Lot Kappa also moved into their new home. The necessity of building a new house was once again reflected. According to the current trend, the family members may increase in the future. The people on the ship also return to their own residences. After a long voyage, there will be a few days of vacation, and they have long been accustomed to it. On the other side, Arceus, who returned to Onigashima, saw several special figures. Happy 4 pink round creatures came to Arceus, similar to Chandler, but they were not Chandler, but Chandler's evolution, Lucky Egg. The change in their calls was a significant difference. The evolved Lucky Egg had already changed its habit of speaking from Lucky to Happy. Have you evolved too? Happy. Several Lucky Eggs responded one after another. Among the many Pokémon created by Arceus, Chandler's evolution was relatively the most difficult. There are many conditions for the evolution of Pokémon, the simplest of which is level evolution. Through the tempering of time, it constantly enhances its strength. When it reaches a critical value, it will naturally evolve. Some Pokémon will have some additional conditions, such as the need for food. The evolution of Kira is an example, but that is not a very complicated thing. In addition, the evolution of some Pokémon requires the attribute energy, provided by evolution stones and special props, which is also very easy. It is very simple for Arceus to make evolution stones and props. Relatively complex is the communication evolution. In the world of Pokémon, some Pokémon need to go through the communication exchange of trainers to evolve, and some Pokémon also need to carry special props in this process. But this is not absolute. In nature, the final forms of Pokémon such as Jenga, Strix, and Raiden still exist in large numbers in the Pokémon population. Their communication evolution is with the help of the special magnetic field provided by the communication machine. Under the influence of the magnetic field, their bodies will be affected and evolve. Even if they do not communicate, they can still complete their evolution in places with special magnetic fields. The most complicated is the Pokémon that evolves by intimacy, such as Chandler. This is not a game, and intimacy is not a numerical value, but represents the harmonious coexistence between people and Pokémon. They can complete their evolution through the transmission of love. It stands to reason that their intimacy with Yamato should have reached the standard long ago. Yamato can be said to be brought up by the 4 of them, but they have not evolved. It is a good thing that they evolved on this trip. Several Happy Eggs jumped and told Arceus what had happened during this period, but soon Arceus found a strange place. Where are all your eggs? These 4 Happy Eggs are all at a high level, and their eggs regenerate a little faster, but at this moment their chests are empty, and the positions where they were supposed to be loaded are all vacant. Although their eggs are very effective, they shouldn't be used at the same time, and there is no way there is an egg thief here. Happy, did Yamato take all your eggs? Chapter 683. You are not worthy of Kaido's tenderness. Compared with Chandy, the shape of Happiny has not changed much. Happiny still maintains its original egg-shaped body. The color is no longer a single pink, but pink on the top and white on the bottom. There are some curled hairs on the head, small white wings on the shoulders, and feather-like structures on the waist. Happiny has a kind personality and is known as the Pokémon that can bring happiness. It is said that only Chandi that has a spiritual connection with the trainer can evolve, and this is the biggest reason why they have not evolved before. In Chandi's mind, the previous Yamato was not a trainer at all, but more like a daughter. As Yamato gradually grew up, this sense changed, and they triggered their own evolution conditions. Whether it is Chandi or Happiny, the egg in the chest is the top priority. Chandi's eggs are rich in nutrients, and the eggs of the evolved Happiny are known as the wonderful eggs filled with happiness. Not only does it taste great, but there are also rumors that, as long as you eat Chandi's eggs, even if you only have one bite, you will be gentle and kind to anyone. No matter how cruel the Pokemon is, they will become gentle, and the same effect is true for humans. Due to the preciousness of eggs, the group of lucky eggs in the Pokemon world has experienced several extinction crises. It was the emergence of the Joy family that stabilized the status of this Pokemon. Their eggs are not taken away by everyone. It is not surprising that Yamato can take the eggs away. What is strange is what she wants so many eggs for. Happy really? She didn't tell you. Forget it, do your things. I'll go see what she is going to do. The happy eggs left one after another. They were going to do their own things. Their status in Wano country belongs to the head nurse and the old nanny who grew up serving the eldest lady. Under their cute appearance, they hide special strength and extremely high status. What they do most often is to comfort others. Their fluffy body hair is their sensor, which can capture the mood of Pokemon and humans, and they are particularly sensitive to sad emotions. The crying of children and Pokemon is likely to attract them. At this time, in the cafeteria of Onigashima, the chef inside was a little panicked. Lady Oni, it's dangerous, the fire is too big. Yamato was frying something on the stove. Looking at the flames that shot up into the sky, the chefs around her were reminding her of the danger. However, this danger was very special. Rather than worrying about Yamato, they were more worried about themselves. The equipment on Oni Island was very well developed. The gas produced by the double bomb gas was not only supplied to Quinn for a search, but part of the gas was compressed into liquefied gas. Looking at Yamato's operation, they were very worried that the gas tank would be blown up. With Yamato's current strength, let alone the gas tank, even if it was replaced with a gunpowder tank, they would not be injured, but they were different. They were just some ordinary chefs who were lured here by high salaries. Not all chefs could pick up a knife and go to the battlefield. Their bodies were still very fragile. If this place really exploded, they would be the ones who would be most injured. As for why they didn't hide away, they are chefs, and this is the kitchen where they fight for their lives. What they have to do is to reduce the occurrence of accidents, not to sit back and watch this place being blown up. Don't worry, nothing will go wrong, it will be done soon. There were several eggshells placed next to them, and the size was just right for the eggshells of the happy egg. Yamato was processing them at this time. Egg dishes are the most basic things. As long as there is no buff of the cooking black hole, most people can do this thing well. As long as Yamato is not a cultural subject, the problem is not particularly big. If the chefs around were to come, they could handle it in minutes, but Yamato insisted on doing it herself, and they had no choice but to obey. Now looking at the big plate of scrambled eggs and the turned off stove, they breathed a sigh of relief. This young lady is not a vase who can't do anything. She is quite good at hands-on. This and this. Are you sure it goes well with wine? I'm sure, Oni-sama, this is the way to go with wine in my hometown. Okay, then let's do it. Is the wine I want ready? Ready, here. The rest of you can do whatever you want. I won't bother you. Yamato took the finished eggs and wine and left the kitchen. She had no interest in washing dishes and cleaning the kitchen. This time she came to the kitchen to do these things because she had her own purpose. After Yamato left, the chefs returned to their respective positions, but the chef who was at Yamato's workstation looked curiously at the egg liquid left at the bottom of the bowl and in the eggshell. It was a very strange fragrance. Out of curiosity, he dipped his finger in the remaining egg liquid and then put it into his mouth. After the egg liquid entered his mouth, a strange feeling appeared in his heart, and the whole person could not help but freeze. Hey, what are you doing? The meal will be served soon. Why are you still standing there? A few minutes later, the people around him noticed his abnormality, patted his shoulder, and woke him up again. So happy, huh? If you don't believe it, tried to. Looking at the remaining egg liquid held by the chef, he tried a bite out of disbelief, and then fell into the same state. On this day, the chefs in the kitchen experienced what happiness was with the help of the remaining egg liquid, and this was also Yamato's ultimate goal. Yamato had not walked far yet, and noticed the reactions of the chefs, and immediately gained more confidence. From Happen, she learned about the magical effects of these eggs. Just one bite can make you feel happy, and no matter how irritable a creature is, it can become gentle. To her, Kaido is the most irritable creature in the world. If this egg can change his nature, the world will be perfect. Yamato, what tricks are you trying to play? Looking at his daughter in front of him, Kaido felt something was wrong. She usually couldn't hide from him, so how could she take the initiative to find him? No, look, this is wine and snacks. I made it myself. Now Kaido thought it was even more wrong. There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. Yamato must have some tricks that he didn't know, but he didn't refuse this kindness. It looks good. Of course, come on, father, try it. It looks good. It looks like human food. Kaido didn't doubt it and threw it all into his mouth. This daughter wouldn't poison him now. Even if she did, he would not be afraid of the full poison resistance in his body. As the food entered his mouth, a strange feeling came into his heart. Kaido suddenly grabbed the wine flask beside him and drank it in big gulps. Then, under Yamato's gaze, he suddenly picked up his 8 precepts. Wait, father, what are you going to do? Yamato, you are too weak now. How can I let you go out to explore with confidence? Listening to Kaido's words, Yamato thought she had succeeded. Such words of concern could never come out of his mouth, but the next moment, she realized how wrong she was. So, you have to get stronger. Let me train you well, Thunderbagua. Wow. The mace swung out an afterimage, and Yamato rolled on the ground twice. In a sense, she succeeded. Happen's egg had a certain effect, but she made a mistake. Kaido's understanding of gentleness is completely different from that of normal people. Chapter 684 Godfather, save me. Hachiseiji smashed the ground, and then swept in the direction of Yamato. The floor in front of him was lifted up halfway, and flew towards Yamato in the form of a fragmentation grenade. Fortunately, her instinctive reaction to Kaido was still there. She condensed an ice shield with one hand, to block the flying fragments. What are you doing? Are you drunk and crazy after just drinking so little? Don't talk nonsense. How can I get drunk with this little wine? It's just that I found out that I made a mistake. I don't care about you enough. Wow. For Kaido, you can skip meals, but you can't skip drinking. Unless you quit drinking under special circumstances. His resting place is almost the same as a wine cellar. Picking up a wine jar, or more accurately a large wine jar, Kaido drank the strong liquor in big gulps, and he started crying while drinking. Seeing Kaido starting to cry, Yamato's heart was gloomy. That jar of wine was indeed a lot, but Kaido's physique could completely empty the alcohol in an instant. He got drunk because he wanted to get drunk, not because he had reached the upper limit. Kaido's emotions can reflect his state. Once he starts crying, it proves that he has lost his temper. Care? Do you call this care? Yamato, you don't understand. This is a very dangerous sea. If you are not strong enough, it is better to die in my hands than to die outside. Boom. The floor has been blown away. This time, the floor slab was it. The gravel flew, and a huge pit appeared on the floor. The huge crack even extended to the wall next to it. Damn dad. Why do I have to die outside? Because you are too weak. You can't face Whitebird, the siege of the Navy headquarters, that old thing Garb, ancient weapons or the resurrected rocks. Hiccup. Even Yamato didn't know what to say for a while. It was normal at the beginning, but later, even dead people like ancient weapons and rocks were pulled out by him. She couldn't understand what Kaido was thinking. Be more normal. Why would I go to those old guys to get myself killed? And when we beat that old lion, didn't you say you recognized me and I can do whatever I want in the future? Did I say that? You did. I don't remember. Maybe your adoptive father promised you that. It has nothing to do with me. If that's the case, why don't you use that power again? Kaido didn't continue to attack, but held the mace in his arms and waited for Yamato's next move. Kaido's silence took effect again. Since that battle, Zekrom has once again returned to its indifferent state to Yamato, as if Zekrom had never existed. Although Yamato has also changed to a certain extent, and can use some lightning simply, it is impossible to summon Zekrom's phantom, and enter the overclocking state like that day. My guess is right. You can't do that. You are too weak. You have to hurry up and become stronger. Hot breath. Kaido's ambition is a disordered world, where status is determined by strength. Therefore, he likes war, and is keen on fighting. Growing up on the battlefield, his definition of gentleness is completely different from that of normal people. Only those who are strong are qualified to make demands and talk about dreams. In this dangerous world, the weak do not have the right to decide the future. He has even more perverted requirements for his biological daughter. Although tyrannical, Kaido is also a human being and has his own preferences. He has his own preferences for the subordinates he recognizes. In the original timeline, when Kaido heard that Minge was captured, he complained that Minge was too weak. When Jack was defeated, Kaido did not blame him, but said that the enemy was too strong. In Yamato, his requirements are completely different from those in normal state. He did not give Yamato the opportunity to be weak. His daughter must be strong, even if the goal of this strong is to kill himself. Looking at the hot flames coming, Yamato opened his mouth and exhaled a breath of cold air. Mushiki Binga. It is not Yamato's characteristic to not fight back when being beaten. After so many years, she has evolved from being beaten unilaterally to being able to fight back, and fighting with Kaido has become the norm. The cold and hot breaths collided, and the decorations on the wall were also destroyed, and even the sprinklers in the corridor began to spray water. The aftermath of the attack had a great impact, but no other pirates were injured. The huge area of the Onigashima house prevented them from being affected, and the frame structure with Arceus steel as the core was not collapsed. The most important thing is that the pirates of Onigashima have learned lessons. Unless there are senior carders around, the farther away from Kaido who is eating and drinking, the better. Note, except for Yamato, when the father and daughter are present at the same time, the aftermath may be far beyond the usual. That's more like it. Only when people reach their limits can they break through themselves. Unfortunately, there is still too much gap. Wine Dragon Bagua. With blue scales all over his body, Kaido has entered the human beast form, but his tone is slightly disappointed. His Wine Dragon Bagua is more powerful than Thunder Bagua, and it is accompanied by strong emotional changes. The loss after drinking is the beginning of him. You bastard dad, don't take it for granted, and do some weird things. Ice Wolf Bagua. There was no lightning, but only extreme ice spreading out. Aegean 7.0 evolved into an ice spike-like mace under the influence of his ability. As Yamato's weapon was swung, a phantom of a dragon-like ice wolf flew out. The weapons of the two did not collide, but began to wrestle in the air. This is an advanced use of armament haki. It can even penetrate the body's defense and cause internal damage when it strikes in the air. It can be seen that both of them have used their true strength. Wow. You did a great job. How about this move? Dragon Dance of the Drunken Dragon Drunken Wheel Thunder Inducing Naraku. Kaido's state went from loss to sadness. His muscles bulged, and after a dragon dance, his strange power directly bounced Yamato away. Then the things attached to the 8 rings also turned into a powerful overlord color, wrapped in a powerful thunder and lightning force, and smashed into the Yamato in front of him. In this gentle mode, the power of Kaido's moves increased very quickly, leaving Yamato no time to adapt. Although Yamato relied on Jinction to block this attack, her Onigashima house also reached its limit. A big hole appeared on the floor, and she fell directly to the next floor. Yamato, can you explain to me what you are doing? A shadow shrouded Yamato, and Arceus appeared in front of her in the dust, which also made her feel relieved. Godfather, save me quickly, that bastard dad is completely crazy. Chapter 685 Kaido's new breakthrough gentle mode. Before his sore muscles recovered, Yamato, who was sitting on the ground, used all 4 limbs and rolled to the back of Arceus. This was the safest place in her knowledge, and the only place that could deal with the crazy Kaido. Just a few minutes ago, when Arceus first entered Onigashima, he felt that the movement above was not right. At first, he did not take it seriously. This was a very common activity in Onigashima. This kind of battle often broke out in the training ground on the top floor. A small earthquake in Onigashima was just like wind and rain, which was just a normal man-made natural phenomenon. But this time it was obviously a bit too much. Humans divided earthquakes into several levels according to the destructive power of earthquakes. Low-level earthquakes can be ignored, and the earthquake resistance of the house can cope with this situation. At the beginning, it was just a small fight. When Onigashima was built, Kaido's violent personality was referenced. He dared to build a training ground on the roof. The resistance here is itself very superior. But as time passed, the level of the earthquake was obviously increasing. The pirates staying in Onigashima noticed the abnormality and ran outside to take shelter. Many people wrapped in towels just ran out of the bathroom. They could guess the source of this abnormality, and because of this, they dared not stay here. The closer Arceus got, the greater the vibration, until just now, Yamato smashed through the floor and appeared in front of him. Looking at the steel bars that were broken by brute force, Arceus felt very overwhelmed. During the transformation of Onigashima, a large amount of Arceus steel was integrated into the building as a building material. Only these fantasy metals can meet the increasingly complex construction needs and their destruction. But now, even the special alloy he made has been twisted off. What did you do? I didn't do anything. I just made him something to eat. Who knew he would go crazy like a convulsion? Thinking of the empty position of the happy eggs before, Arceus seemed to know what Kaido had eaten. At this time, there was another vibration under his feet, and Kaido also jumped down from above. The two mustaches drifted back with the flow of air around him. Kaido's face was full of anger. At this time, he had entered the third stage of drunkenness, drunken rage. Why do you have to bear it this way? If you change the method, the floor will not be damaged. The fundamental reason for the floor being broken through was Kaido's force. Of course, if you look into it carefully, it can be regarded as a side effect of Yamato's plan, but in Kaido's view, this is a manifestation of learning without perfect skills. She can use the barrier more flexibly. While taking his attack, she can spread the barrier under her feet to protect the floor. Yes, it is not to protect herself, but to protect the floor. In his view, Yamato will not die after being hit by a stick, and it will be fine after a while, but the floor still needs to be repaired with time and effort. As for whether Yamato's defense can be practiced to that level, that is not a question he wants to think about. Look, Godfather. That bastard dad thinks the floor is more important than me. He must be crazy. You should wake him up. Yamato behind Arceus felt very relieved. If this place was not safe, she didn't know where to hide. Yamato, fix the floor for me later. If there is any difference, I will personally give you extra training. Godfather, I'm innocent. I did nothing. It was my father who was drunk. If I'm not mistaken, you gave him the egg of Chansey? That's right. Chansey said that people who eat eggs will become gentle. So I asked you to fix the floor. As for the current situation, Arceus' eyes lit up with purple light, and a strange smoke was released by him. The floor was filled with strange smoke in an instant. Kaido's situation is very special. Strictly speaking, Chance's egg is not a debuff, but a status, or a buff. This situation must be handled specially. The smoke of clearance is a skill that was created just to eliminate the buffs on the enemy. It can be said that it is just right to use it here. Godfather, is it over? Over? Don't you know what kind of person your father is? Kaido's strange state has been eliminated by Arceus, but Arceus has no ability to sober up. Kaido is still in a fighting state, and he is in a state of excitement. You're back. It just so happens that there is no one on this island who can make me fight. Yamato is not mature enough now, so you might as well do it. Looking at Kaido who was drunk, Arceus didn't say anything, but glanced at Yamato behind him. Yamato, I'm here. You will be responsible for repairing that wall later. Huh. Before Yamato could understand the true meaning of this sentence, a huge impact directly knocked her back, and the dual attribute punishment light gravel of fairy and dragon was directly hit out by Arceus. Just right. I'll wake you up, so you don't get into fights without knowing where to fight next time. Yamato was safe. Arceus had already pushed Kaido out of here with a punishment light gravel. He controlled the power of his skills. With Kaido's physical fitness, it was impossible for anything to happen. It was just that they changed the battlefield, otherwise Onigashima would be destroyed. Yamato, who stayed here, looked dazed. She raised her hand and compared the environment of the battlefield. The diameter of the hole she smashed was only 2 or 3 meters, which was not a big problem. Then she looked at the big hole made by Arceus. It seems that I didn't damage it very badly. Whoosh. A gust of cold wind blew, and the cold air from the outside blew into Onigashima, making a strange sound in the corridor. How do I repair this thing? Covering her head, Yamato fell into a new round of despair, but after a while, the construction team that came helped her a lot. If she really asked her to repair it, the building structure here would be considered useless. Arceus just asked her to help. As for Kaido, after a fierce battle, he was awake. Although his consciousness was not very clear, he had made a breakthrough. He has always been a warrior on the battlefield. Fighting is in his genes. It is not only about combat power, but also about learning ability. Under the influence of the happy egg, he found a unique state. In this state, he can abandon all distractions and enter that combat mode. He can even combine it with his drunken dragon bagua state to burst out with stronger combat power. From this day on, Kaido also started a new round of training. He is looking for a way to enter that state directly without the help of external forces. As for the name, it can be called Gentle Bagua or Happy Bagua for the time being. He is thinking about a more domineering external name. I took a shower and felt weak. Recovering brothers, please pay attention to the bathing time. There will be 2 updates today. Chapter 686, The Sin of Gluttony. Someone came to the door. The next day, Jack returned to Onigashima and looked at the big hole on Onigashima. His eyes were full of disbelief. He wondered which madman drank fake wine and dared to come to the door when Kaido and Arceus were staying on Onigashima at the same time. The origin stayed quietly in the port, which was enough to prove that Arceus had not left. Kaido might not take a ship when he went out, but it was also easy to judge whether he was there or not, just by looking at the garbage dump. If the fragments of the wine jar inside increased significantly and were mixed with the fragments of Kaido's wine gourd, it meant that Kaido was also in Wano during this period. The average lifespan of his wine jug was very short, and he basically could not escape the fate of being broken. As for why he could come to this conclusion, Onigashima was originally built with multi-story houses, based on the size of the giants. Now the big hole spanning 2 floors could not be made by ordinary people. No, Master Jack, it's just some trivial matters between Governor Kaido, Master Arceus, and Master Oni. After measuring the big hole again, Jack didn't know what to say. The structure of the houses on Oni Island was not ordinary. It was obvious that they were serious to be beaten like this. By the way, Master Jack, you are standing in the construction area. I suggest you stay away from there. What's the matter? It's just a few bricks. Jack didn't take such a small matter seriously, but before he finished speaking, a shadow enveloped him, and a broken beam mixed with a large number of unidentified objects was thrown down from above. The previous battle did not damage the main structure of the house, but it also needed a major overhaul. Some key components of the structure needed to be replaced. Otherwise, if it happened again, Oni Island might really collapse. Arceus's punishment light gravel directly melted those things into molten steel, and those liquids formed some irregular aggregates after cooling. These things can no longer be reshaped and used. In line with the principle of not wasting, these things will become food for rock and steel Pokemon. In order to save trouble, Yamato threw them down directly. Theoretically, there is no one in the construction area, but Jack is still very brave. Unless he is specifically told to be more steady, he will still be that reckless man. Boom. With a muffled sound, Jack supported the fallen building materials with one hand, but looking at the marks under his feet, it can be estimated how heavy this thing is. At this time, Yamato also leaned out from the damaged place. Hey, Jack, you are back. Help me. Throw the steel blocks over there. The ones above have been used up. By the way, you can give those things to Steelix. The ones from the past few days have been given to Sakura and the others, and it's Steelix's turn now. Jack didn't say anything, but picked up the steel blocks with a frown on his face, threw them up, and then dragged the waste slag away. He had an ominous premonition that, if he dragged it any further, who knows what else would fall. Yamato steadily caught the steel block thrown by Jack, and then handed it to the person next to him to measure the size. After they determined the required shape, it was the turn of the giant forger carrying the sledgehammer. The material of Arceus steel is very special. It is extremely difficult for ordinary people to forge this metal. The giant forgers who are born with strange strength and are constantly learning forging skills perfectly meet this demand. And one more thing, their hammers are also made of Arceus steel. The same material can play a better role in metal plasticity, which saves Arceus from personally correcting the process of each piece of metal. The work level of the giant forgers is also very high. There is only one bad thing, that is, the scrap rate is a bit high, and there will always be a lot of scrap inexplicably. You guys, be more serious. Don't always deliberately break it. Don't quibble. I've seen the steel slag on the corners of your mouths. They are excellent craftsmen, but at the same time, they are also steel type Pokemon. It is difficult for them to resist the desire in their hearts when facing Arceus steel. As Pokemon, they can eat Arceus steel bit by bit, like eating hard candy. This situation began to occur after they accidentally discovered the way to deal with waste. It is reasonable for decoration to have waste. At the beginning, Arceus made a lot of extra steel and gave it to the construction team. Because there is no indicator, the scrap rate has remained high. This is also the reason why the waste slag is given to other Pokemon as a snack. The giant forger's stealing behavior did not hide it from Yamato, but she did not say anything, which made the giant forgers bolder. Compared with repairing houses, giant forgers are actually better at demolishing houses, and they can demolish them without any slag left. The reason why they banned steel type Pokemon from entering the place was because they were worried about this kind of thing happening. By the way, the hammer of the giant forger is not only a weapon for survival, but also an emergency food reserve for them in extremely critical situations. Don't eat anymore. I'll take you to get other delicious food after we're done. Now it's time to catch up. And you. I saw you hiding things. Hurry up and finish the project, and those will be given to you. Arceus steel is the professional name of the beasts. The people of Wano country call it more simply, divine steel. It is the dream steel in the eyes of all craftsmen and swordsmiths. The giant forger is greedy, and they pick up the remaining steel powder from the giant forger's mouth. They lack the means to melt large pieces of steel, so they can only choose to improve the quality by mixing powder. This is not against the rules. Arceus steel is an inexhaustible resource for the beasts. If Yamato didn't think it would delay the progress, he would not say it to his face. She didn't take it seriously, but the craftsman didn't think so. Before Yamato could figure out what was going on, he found that these people were working even harder. Yamato always thought that he was very kind, and in fact, he was, but the craftsman didn't think so. It was not a good thing for them to be discovered. In their opinion, Yamato just wanted them to make up for their mistakes. As time passed, the forged steel frames were put back in place, and the decoration team began their filling work. Yamato also carried a pile of wooden boards to another floor. The outside was repaired, but the floor that was blown away inside had to be relaid. There were constant bangs in Onigashima, and the repair work was still going on. Some people were not very happy. In the training ground in Wano country, Quinn lay on the ground with no desire to live, and didn't want to get up. Not long after he went out, he was caught by Kaido as a practice subject, to familiarize himself with his new mode. Chapter 687, Quinn saves himself with ultimate science. After being beaten and thrown out for who knows how many times, Quinn's patience finally reached its limit. Brother Kaido, is it over? No, this feeling is not right. It's always a little short. Get up, Quinn. Practice again. Fatherly love is like a mountain collapsing, and the earth cracking. Filial piety is like a heavy rain. This is a gentle mode internally. Garp also calls it the iron fist of love when he hits Luffy every day, but he won't say that when he hits outsiders, to the outside world. This is a mountain collapse gossip. But for some reason, this state seems to be exclusive to Yamato. When fighting with outsiders, Kaido always feels that something is missing. The egg of happiness is one aspect, and Kaido has never found that opportunity. In order to master the new fighting method, as soon as possible, he began to hone his younger brother and achieve a win-win situation in hell. Brother Kaido, don't you want to change your practice object? What do you think of that guy Jin? Raising his finger and pointing at Jin, who was flying in the air with his hands around him, Quinn tried to divert his firepower, but he failed. No need, you are more resistant to attack and have stronger recovery ability. You are still far from your limit. I'll give you 10 seconds. If you don't prepare for defense, I will attack you directly. Jin is also one of his training targets. A state is not prepared for only one opponent. He can't find the state again on every opponent. But now Kaido thinks it is more appropriate to practice with Quinn first and then change the target. Under Kaido's coercion, Quinn had to get up again and prepare for the new crisis. The result was also clear. With Kaido deliberately feeding him and releasing a C, Quinn was gloriously defeated. Strange, it's still a little short. Brother Kaido, I watched the previous video of Onigashima. It seems that you entered the Bagua mode first, and then that situation occurred. Now that you are not drinking, you want to skip this step directly. Isn't it a bit too advanced? Jin has been observing the whole battle from the sky with the god's perspective. Although he is not as strong as Kaido, his eyesight is still there. Sometimes, bystanders can see more clearly, and the god's perspective can better see the problem. I don't really want to rely on external forces. Let's try again. Kaido really didn't want to rely on external forces. Bagua had to drink to find that feeling of being tipsy, but there was nothing wrong with drinking on the battlefield. At first, it was to boost courage, and then he got used to it. Now for him, boosting courage is not necessary at all. And there is another problem. Smashing the wine gourd after drinking wine is a kind of cool behavior in his eyes, but eating eggs is not. He can't take a boiled egg, and then when he is ready to enter the mode, peel the skin, and eat the egg in public. Eating the skin is even more evil. For this reason, he must break through himself and find a steady method. Brother Kaido, I think we can proceed step by step, starting with Bagua. As he said, Jin handed Kaido's wine pot over, and Quinn, who saw all this, almost broke his sunglasses with his eyes. Jin is a very bad ghost. He dared to be sure that Jin bewitched Kaido to practice Bagua with no good intentions. He was right. Practicing like this must be beneficial, but Kaido just wanted to skip this process directly, otherwise he would have drunk alcohol long ago. And here lies the problem. Kaido gets drunk after a little bit of drinking. If he enters the mode of drunken gossip, what kind of character will he be beaten into? Brother Kaido, I think it's good to practice like this. Don't listen to the nonsense of that torturer. Why, you, a waste, still want to hold Brother Kaido back at this time? Who do you say is a waste? Say it again and see. Who can't beat me is the one. Why don't you try with me again? Jin and Quinn are still in this state. Unless there is an external enemy, it is normal for them to fight and pit each other. Of course, most of the time it is Jin who pits Quinn, and Quinn really has no way to deal with Jin. Point, you are so active, then you come. They just tried it once not long ago. The health bar of the Lunarian made Quinn feel desperate. In the end, he was the loser. Kaido's sparring is not life-threatening, but requires physical strength. In this state, he can't beat Jin, so he changed his mind. There is nothing wrong with this idea, but he forgot one thing. I don't mind, but you were chosen by Brother Kaido himself. Even through the mask, Quinn could feel the playful smile on Jin's face. Kaido had already proved himself with his actions. Crack. There was a sound of broken pottery in my ears. It was needless to say what it meant. Quinn, you still have the energy to quarrel. It seems that you have recovered well. Try your best. I think your movements are much slower than before. Thunder. Bagua. In the mode of the Dragon Bagua, Kaido swung the Thunder Bagua again with a little repression. After a slightly painful battle, Quinn and Jin both fell to the ground. After Quinn was exhausted, Jin joined the sparring team. Neither the dirty tactics of the tropical dragon nor the strong physical fitness of the Lunaria tribe could solve the last Kaido. The wild boar cart took them back to the resting place in the flower capital. Kaido also flew back to Onigashima and continued his hangover life. If he didn't need to find the state from someone other than Yamato, he would have dragged Yamato to exercise. Alga is not the type to fight with brute force. Next, he plans to try with Shaina and Aurora. Days like this continue, and Quinn finally convinces Happy Egg through various tricks, and gets a Happy Egg. HMPH, I want to see what special ingredients are in this egg. He is essentially a scholar. He is the leader of all beasts in research. For this reason, he even found Darcy and was determined to figure it out. But the final result was a failure. This is an egg with extremely rich nutrition. Apart from that, they did not find any information. Brother Quinn, why don't you ask the group of people on the small sky island? Those people seem to have changed their careers to become Pokemon scholars recently. They should have more research on this thing. Pokemon, you reminded me. Why ask those guys? I'm going to find Lord Arceus to get some information. Those paleontologists on Sky Island changed their careers because of interest. Through their research, they did summarize some of the life laws of Pokemon, but for Pokemon, Arceus is the one who knows them best. In order to get rid of Kaido's torture as soon as possible, Quinn immediately left his laboratory. As long as he mastered that, he would have no interest in such things. As for who would be tortured next, as long as it was not himself, it would matter to whoever it was. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 688. That year, he had eggnog on his waist and didn't know what an opponent was. Quinn showed up at Onigashima stealthily. He was worried that he would be bumped into by Kaido, and then he would be temporarily pulled to practice. Quinn, what are you doing sneaking around like that? He did not meet Kaido, but Shaina's voice sounded behind him. Jin said that you have been taught a lesson by Mr. Kaido recently. Are you itching for trouble again? Shh, auntie, please forgive me. First it was Miss Yamato, then Brother Kaido. I have suffered enough. In this environment, Quinn made a quick decision and chose to admit defeat. Compared with Jin, Shaina was more ruthless, and she really would take action, unlike Jin, who was just bickering most of the time. What are you doing here? Lord Holy Beast hasn't looked for you recently, has he? She had just returned from Jin not long ago, mainly to deliver lily carnation seeds to Jin. Some of those seeds had not yet sprouted, and they needed to go through some special methods before they could be used. The Lunaria tribe was originally a race with a very wide heritage, but now, the tribe is almost extinct. In Shaina's cognition, there is no one of the same tribe except Jin. The inheritance of knowledge in Lunaria has also become a problem. During the exile, they learned to fight, and also learned some special knowledge. In order to pass on more things, they learned different things separately, and whoever is better at this aspect will learn it. In terms of plants, Shaina's talent is higher than Jin, so only she knows the specific way of inducing the birth of lily carnation. Just now, she wasted some time to teach Jin to master this ceremony and helped him guard outside for a while. This is not the Carnival Island. There is no man's land around. In Wano country, there are still some things to pay attention to. Can't I ask Lord Arceus for help? Has Arceus made a breakthrough in his research? No. Have you found anything of great value? No, that, either. Then what are you doing here? To make trouble? I'm here to save my life. If I continue like this, I'll be driven crazy by Kaido sooner or later. By the way, according to what Kaido said recently, he plans to ask you and Aurora to try next. Jin and I can no longer satisfy his demand for combat power. Quinn continued to move forward, and Shaina did not stop him. Even Shaina did not want to be entangled by Kaido because of this matter, and Quinn continued on his own path of scientific self-help. When science reaches its extreme, it becomes theology. For Quinn, he is still on that special path of science. This is the situation. Lord Arceus, what exactly is in that egg? You should know it, right? Quinn recounted what happened recently and stated his purpose, which was mainly to find out why Happin's eggs can achieve such a strange effect. Of course I know, but you can't replicate that kind of thing. The eggs of Happy Egg are not just eggs, but also a collection of energy and nutrients in Happy Egg. Like the skills released, they are all magical substances composed of Pokemon energy. When there are sufficient nutrients, Happy Egg's eggs will regenerate faster. In battle, they can also frequently use the egg-laying skills to convert physical energy into similar objects. Arceus can help happy egg replenish physical strength and let them provide more eggs, but there is no way for Quinn to decompose that kind of component. But don't you know that there is something called eggnog? Eggnog? Can eggs also be used to make wine? Is this a folk recipe from some sea area? There are very few pirates who don't drink alcohol. Even if they don't drink, most pirates have a certain understanding of alcohol through osmosis. Quinn has never heard of the method of making eggnog. But this is indeed not brewed, but mixed. Eggs, rum, whiskey, milk, and sugar are mixed to get eggnog. Compared with wine, it is more like a sweet drink, but it is enough to solve this situation. Kaido only needs a little bit of wine to find the state of the wine dragon gossip, and whiskey and rum are both strong liquors. Adjusting the ratio can easily make a suitable drink. As expected of Lord Arceus, he even knows this kind of thing. This time he should be saved. Quinn did not achieve his goal, but he found a solution from an alternative perspective. In the end, he got the improved eggnog recipe from Arceus. Whiskey and rum are still ordinary alcoholic beverages purchased. Milk from the big milk can replaces ordinary milk. Eggs from the happy egg replace eggs, and sweet secret seasoning replaces sugar to make a brand new drink. Due to the improvement of the formula, this eggnog has a very long shelf life. Due to its powerful effect, this formula of eggnog is not available for sale. The milk from the big milk can has little effect, but the eggs and secret seasonings of the happy egg are different. The eggs of the happy egg can not only make people feel happy and let Kaido find that strange feeling, but also restore physical strength, and the secret seasoning is also extraordinary. They are not ordinary seasonings, but plants that grow in special areas. They have different flavors, and can allow Pokemon to gain strength from them. In the Paideia region, Pokemon that are lucky enough to discover secret seasonings have become extraordinary. Because the seasonings give them powerful power, they are called treasure masters, and it is difficult for ordinary people to defeat them. Eating secret seasonings can instantly recover from injuries, strengthen physical strength, and enhance strength. It can be called a powerful stimulant without side effects. Brother Kaido, look at this. With this thing, you can perfectly solve that problem. Quinn also understood that Kaido has two essential props, the 8 fasts and the wine gourd. It is not realistic to carry an egg with him, but it is no problem to replace it with eggnog. So this time he took the initiative to find Kaido, hoping to eliminate the trouble forever. This is the folk remedy given by Lord Arceus. Use this to help you enter that state. Kaido took the wine gourd handed over by Quinn, tried it experimentally, and really found that wonderful state. That's the feeling. It really kills 2 birds with 1 stone. As long as you are satisfied, I'll leave first. Quinn planned to study his banana. The sweet secret seasoning seemed to match his tropical dragon banana very well, but a big crack appeared on the ground in front of him, blocking his way. Looking back, the other end of the crack happened to be the landing point of the 8 fasts. Brother Kaido, I was originally planning to find Shaina and Aurora, but since you took the initiative to find me, I might as well help you temper it again. Chapter 689 Street Fighter Pink Hair Twin Ponytails. Eggnog solved a large part of the trouble, but there are still some problems. Both the Geelong Bagua and the Gentle Mode have to rely on certain external forces. The ideal situation is to make these 2 states the same as his Dragon Dance Bagua, and to be able to directly activate skills without the help of external forces. Geelong Bagua has no idea for the time being, and the feeling of being drunk is difficult to find, but the latter is different. There is still a chance, if you work harder, so Quinn did not get rid of the difficulties directly. He experienced destruction and growth in Kaido's training. The other Katas were similar. Single or group fights, the fighting almost never stopped. After the house on Ghost Island was repaired, Yamato was also dragged in by Kaido again. It seems that this state will last for a while until his interest is over. At that time, he is likely to go out to find the next unlucky guy and let the other party experience his enhanced strength, which means that the Katas of the beasts are temporarily relieved. The house on Ghost Island has been repaired, and the work of the giant forger has also been temporarily ended. When there is no special task, their job is to process metal. With the giant hammer, they can complete the forging of metal with higher efficiency than machines. This is their job. When they are resting, they will go out to the streets in groups and even become a unique landscape. In the flower capital, Kojiro's residence, the butler is exercising outside the door. Although Kojiro moved to Shimei for some convenience, and King Enwu and Caterpie both live with him, his residence can be found in any area of Wano country. He is now the richest businessman in Wano country. His status is very stable, and others can't shake his position at all. Of course, compared with Tesoro, Kojiro's assets are nothing. Even if the Beast Fruit is a company owned by the Beast, Tesoro has also gained huge benefits by dividends. The giant forgers walked on the street with their sledgehammers, and people who saw them chose to avoid them. This is not bullying, but their status as grass-headed gods. In the eyes of most residents of Wano country, the giant forgers are the gods of the forging industry, and it is reasonable for them to give way. The huge hammers collided with each other from time to time, making a crisp sound. Each giant forger had a small bag on his chest, which was filled with strange giant slag. This was the fire consumption generated when repairing the house before, and now it fell into the hands of the giant forger. They have their own metal quota every month, but most of it must be melted into their own hammers. The hammers of the giant forgers can be said to be constantly updated. If they eat too much, there will be no extra quota to repair their own hammers. So these giant forgers will not miss such opportunities. Carrying hammers and eating snacks, the giant forger's steps seem to be casual, but the destination is very clear, which is Kojiro's residence. Soon, they appeared at the end of the street. Seeing those pink figures, the housekeeper rubbed his eyes, and then ran back home in a panic. Master Kojiro. Master Kojiro. Those giant forgers are here again. Whether it's his tone or his actions, the butler is very stressed. Unlike ordinary residents of Wano country, he seems to be very afraid of these pink-haired twin-tails. In fact, it's not that he is afraid, but Kojiro is a little troubled by these giant forgers. Every time those giant forgers come to him, they are like bandits coming down the mountain, always wanting to knock something down. If it's just ordinary things, it's fine. He has a big family and a lot of money, so he can't afford to do so. Every year, raising his own little Kakashi and his offspring is a huge expense. But the problem is that the goal of these giant forgers coming here is to knock some parts off him. He is also one of the gods, with the ability given by Arceus, but it happens that his ability is to chop the commander. He is also a very powerful Pokemon, with good performance in both resistance and attack range, but he happened to meet the giant forger. The habits of the giant forgers make them interested in collecting metals, not just minerals, but also the steel on the bodies of steel-type Pokemon. Among many steel-type Pokemon, the giant forgers obsessed with the families of Steel Crow and Slash Commander. The feathers of Steel Crow and the armor blades of the Slash Commander family are their favorite things. Be careful of the Steel Crows on Onigashima when they land. With Arceus' request, they will not try to knock down Steel Crows, but if there is a chance, they will still pluck a few feathers from them. There are quite a few Steel Crows, and the fallen feathers will be given to the giant forge. Normally, there is no big problem, but there is only one Slash Commander, Kojiro, in Wano country, so the giant forgers have a single goal. They will use the excuse of sparring to duel with Kojiro in his ability state, and will never stop until they knock something off. Ahem. So fast this time. Yes, I think they are almost at the door. Why don't you hide? Forget it, there is no point. I just feel sorry for my hair. Touching his hair, Kojiro felt that his hair was about to go away. There are two types of steel Pokemon. One is the rare type like the giant forger, which has less metal structure on the body and collects metal from the outside. The other is the normal state of steel Pokemon, which has strong armor all over the body. These armors are not non-renewable resources. They will gradually recover with the passage of time and the supplement of nutrients. The blade of the wild Slash Commander is the same. To them, it is claws and hair, and it needs to be polished from time to time. Finding a territory with a suitable grindstone is one of the life goals of the Slash Commander tribe. If it cannot be regenerated, it may be gone after grinding. Kojiro is a power user, not the Slash Commander. The damage to his body after the power will also be reflected in his body. For him, it will be temporarily bald. In a sense, he was selling his hair to improve his favorability, and for him, this was also an opportunity to hone his martial arts. Hyagoro, who was originally a guest in the courtyard, looked at Kojiro's slightly helpless expression and had some doubts. What's wrong, Kajiro? Is there anything difficult? In today's Wano country, Hyagoro couldn't think of anything else that could make him feel embarrassed. This is a little fun in life. Uncle Hyagoro, if you are interested, just come and teach me. Getting along with Pokemon will produce all kinds of strange reactions. Being poisoned by the double shot gas and being electrocuted by the sheep are not uncommon, but what happened to him is more peculiar. Kajiro did not carry a sword and came to the center of the courtyard with his bare hands, waiting for the arrival of the giant forger. Chapter 690, Troubles of Middle-Aged People. Kajiro has a simpler choice, which is to get some blades himself. For the body of the Slash Commander, this is similar to cutting nails and shaving hair. However, the wild giant forge tribe is not so kind, so the two races are more like enemies. But this is Wano country, so this kind of ecology was born. It is also a characteristic of Pokemon that different relationships are born due to different living areas. The number of Lapras in the Hone region is rare and extremely rare, but in the Alola region, due to overprotection, Lapras are somewhat rampant. Therefore, here, as the owner of the ability of the Slash Commander, Kajiro and the Giant Forgers have reached a new way of survival. He refused to give it away for free, but let the Giant Forgers take it themselves. To this day, Kajiro's essence has not changed much. He can swing a few powerful swords, but compared with opponents of the same level, his skills and durability are a little worse. Now he knows the importance of strength, so he uses the Giant Forgers as training objects. Otherwise he can also write a complaint letter. With his current contribution, Arceus will not mind helping him to limit the strange behavior of the Giant Forgers. But he did not choose this, but chose to build a good relationship with the Giant Forgers. Although even his housekeeper felt that Kajiro was very troubled when facing the Giant Forgers, their relationship was actually quite good, especially when the Giant Forgers had no metal needs. Hyagoro got up curiously and followed Kajiro. Not long after, he saw 5 Giant Forgers jumping over from the wall one after another. If he had come a few months earlier, he would have seen a literal break-in. At that time, because the housekeeper locked the door, the Giant Forgers chose an extremely simple way to open the door. The exclusive skill Giant Hammer is not a joke. Not to mention the door lock, the door can be hammered directly. After that, Kajiro had a cordial and friendly conversation with them. On the premise of writing a complaint letter, the two sides reached a consensus that no matter what the situation, his building should not be damaged. Although their legs are short, their own strange strength makes them have a terrifying jumping ability, so it is not difficult to do such a thing. Ha. I know, you are really enough. Did you come here according to the time? Ha. The leading Giant Forger handed him a small box. Looking at the Giant Forger who had already started to take the gift, Kajiro didn't know what to say for a while. No matter how the process was, the result wasn't changed. The material collection process started quickly. Although Kajiro did not carry a saber, the hands of the commander of the slashing sword were sharp blades in themselves, and could also be regarded as two short swords. Hyagoro also saw the disadvantages from this. If it was just one Giant Forger, Kajiro could handle it with ease, and 2 would not be a problem. Their racial gap was not so big that the commander of the slashing sword could not fight back, and the individual differences were also very obvious. The expertise of these Giant Forgers was not in fighting. But the problem was that Kajiro had 5 opponents, and these 5 Giant Forgers could be said to be brothers from the same mother. When forging, they can swing 5 hammers to create after images without interfering with each other, and forge an item at the same time. Under this mode of training, their cooperation is extremely tacit, and there are even some combination skills, such as the strange flying hammer. Under their siege, his situation became very difficult. At the beginning, the Giant Forgers fought him one-on-one, but now the group fight is Kajiro's own request. The difficulty can be chosen on the training ground, but the enemy cannot. Whether it is siege or poisoning, it is a crisis that may be encountered. He is also tempering himself. After a while, the Giant Forgers left here happily with the blade fragments in their arms. Kajiro stood up with the help of Higoro and touched his head helplessly. I'm sorry to make you laugh. You can't do this. You still have too little practical experience. It can't be helped. If so many things hadn't happened, I wouldn't be like this now. I'm not telling you this. What about the things I taught you? Did you forget them as soon as you turned your head? You haven't practiced at all during this period. Hitting Kojiro on the head with his pipe, Hyagoro started teaching again. In his opinion, Kojiro had many problems with his response. This was not only a problem of experience, but also a problem of lack of practice. Well, I'm busy after all. You mean you're busy raising fish and drinking tea in the courtyard? Pointing to the previous place, Hyagoro's face had a feeling of looking down on the younger generation. I didn't come out because you came. I will practice more. After much persuasion, Kojiro successfully persuaded Hyagoro and sent him back home. Then he looked at the gifts brought to him by the giant forgers, which seemed to be the honey produced by the 3 bees recently, as well as some other Pokemon's companion products. Master Kojiro, there's a call for you. When Kojiro was checking the gifts, his butler came over with a communications mail. When he was discussing things with Hyagoro, he didn't bring any communication equipment, so he called the mansion. HMM. Who is it? It's Lord Setsuna, Miss Setsuna. It's me. What's the matter? This is not a big deal. I'm outside Yoshima's mansion now. I may have to go in to find something. If I break anything, you can send a bill to Curie later, and I'll compensate you. Huh. Kojiro didn't understand what was going on for a while. He didn't understand why the other party went to his house to look for something. I don't know where those 2 kids ran off with your Zyoka, and I happened to chase them here, so I'm sorry to bother you. It's okay, just do whatever you want. Thank you. Seeing that Kojiro agreed, Setsuna hung up the phone. Master Kojiro, you should also consider the issue of offspring. You are the only one in the Sasaki family now. I'm sorry, I spoke out of turn, but this is a list of women of marriageable age in Wano country. Would you consider it? Uncle, I don't want to get stuck in the quagmire of marriage yet. As he grew older, Kojiro's old housekeeper began to urge him to get married, which gave him a headache, especially since Setsuna's daily life made him even less willing to join that kind of life. At the same time, shimmery, outside Kojiro's residence, Setsuna sniffed the air and became more certain of what she thought in her heart. Her 2 children must have run in here. She originally thought that they were still young and there was no need to make life cards now. But she has changed her mind now, and she will make a life card for the 2 little guys later. Farewell, babysitter, I'll trouble you later. Chapter 691 Wrong. Next time I dare to use the teleservice of the nanny bug. There is also a babysitter bug with Setsuna. In terms of the number of babysitters, Miyawa and Wolf have no advantage, but in terms of variety, they are richer than Yamato in the past, because their own personalities are too naughty. Babysitter bugs are used to deal with a special problem. Zerora specifically went to Arceus to ask for it. It can be said that it is specially prepared for possible situations. Her family's free-range policy has not changed, but these 2 children are probably inherited from her good genes and are extremely free. Perona and Werebear, Ling and Hatch, Lot Kappa, Wanda, Zerora and Setsuna can look after the children, but sometimes they will let them play by themselves. Every time this happens, they will run away. After catching them back, they will behave very well under education. If they make the same mistake again, in short, I was wrong, but I will dare to do it next time. Setsuna let the 2 of them play around before, and they happened to meet Kakashi from Kojiro's house. The transformation of the Caterpie made Kakashi very healthy, and its lifespan has long exceeded that of ordinary dogs. The fur tribe and mammals are relatively close, and with the transformation power of Arceus on Zyoka, they quickly became familiar with each other. When Setsuna went out to call them back for dinner, the 2 little guys had already ridden their dogs and ran away. Following the smell and footprints, Setsuna just came to the door of Kojiro's house. There were Gyarados and Good and Bad Star in the sea outside, and Tanabata Bluebird and Steel Armor Crow in the sky. The 2 of them would definitely not be able to escape from Wano country. In this case, they would definitely not encounter any danger. Although they are young, with their current abilities and Zyoka, ordinary people really can't deal with them. Seeing that this was Kojiro's house, she did not break in directly, but contacted the owner calmly. Kojiro did not live here, but with his financial resources, he still kept servants in this house. He had just asked the old butler to notify the butler here, and Setsuna did not need to climb over the wall. The door was opened from the inside. Master Setsuna, Master Kajiro said that you can go anywhere you want. There is no place you can't go. But we have been inside, and we didn't see anyone running in. You guys continue to do your things. I will deal with it soon. After sniffing the air, she was sure that the two little guys were here. Refusing the servant's intention to lead her, she followed the remnant of the smell and came to a slightly smaller house. If she remembered correctly, this was Kajiro's kennel. He himself was unmarried, but Koka had many wives and concubines. There were dozens of Koka's descendants living here. These were his favorites. In Wano country, Koka's descendants can be found in many places. It's just that no one inherited the ability to breathe fire, they just had better physiques. At this time, there was also a cat fur and a wolf fur mixed in the dog group. Wolf and Miyawana had a lot of fun playing with these dogs, but when Setsuna saw the situation here, he was not very happy. Meow. Wolf. Come out. She exuded a terrifying aura, and the puppies who felt that she was not easy to mess with made way for her. Only Zyoka looked at her innocently, as if to say, didn't you ask me to play with them? Wolf and Meow were also frozen. Facing Setsuna, they had no ability to resist. Standing still was the best way to avoid punishment. Every time they were caught, they would choose this method. Okay, I'm going to take them home. You can play together again, if you have a chance. After touching Zyoka's dog head, Setsuna held one in each hand and planned to take the two children back. They didn't know what they had done. The two fur tribes were now like mud monkeys. The new clothes that had just been prepared in the morning were no longer recognizable at this time. After asking the servants of Kajiro's house about the location of the bathroom, she temporarily borrowed the bathroom here and took a brush to wash the two children. After the washing was finished, the ability of the nanny bug was reflected. When Wolf's fur was dried by Setsuna, he found that his sister had changed into a brand new set of clothes. The body of the baby bug is beige and the trunk is slender. It is a bipedal insect plus grass Pokemon. It wears clothes made of leaves. The end of the leaves on its hands is like a knife with a semicircular notch. They are classified as parenting Pokemon and are born with very strong maternal instincts. If they encounter young Pokemon or Pokemon eggs in the wild, they will protect them. Not only can they hatch eggs through the temperature generated by fermenting fallen leaves, but they can also sew clothes for other Pokemon. The leaf knives on their hands and the silk thread sprayed from their mouths are their tools for sewing clothes. Both males and females have this habit. In the wild, baby bugs can only use local materials and sew clothes with large leaves, but here, they can use more materials, so they become natural tailors. The two bath towels before have now become fitted clothes, but with a strong Arabic style. These two little guys were too much of a chore to wear out their clothes when they were playing around, so Zerora asked Arceus for a nanny bug who could not only help take care of the children, but also solve similar problems. And Setsuna was also starting her own education work. Remember, you are absolutely not allowed to go through the dog hole when there is nothing to do. Next time you come here to play, you must go in through the main door with dignity, understand? Pinching Wolf's face, Setsuna emphasized this issue again and again. According to their feedback, it was Zyoka who led them directly through the dog hole, so no one found them. And this is also a problem that the fur tribe should pay attention to. You can get close to animals, but you can't really think of yourself as a beast. Mom, do you mean that you can go through the dog hole when you have something to do? Setsuna thought about the language. If there was really a situation that was unavoidable, it was understandable to go through the dog hole, but she couldn't say that. No, not in real life, unless you encounter some tough enemies and need to infiltrate to investigate intelligence. Go back and ask your dad. He is more skilled in the details of fighting. Mom, speaking of fighting, when will you teach us moon lions? Yes, I heard that moon lions are super cool. The fur tribe has fighting blood in their bones. They are not afraid of fighting, but a little excited. It's too early. Your aunt hasn't learned it yet. Let's talk about it when she learns it. The two little guys didn't need to learn moon lions yet, and Setsuna rejected them with Wanda as an example. Chapter 692. Do I know how to do it or not? Why are you two not eating and staring at me? In the evening, Wanda felt a very strange atmosphere because Miawana and Wolf's eyes were always on her and they never left. As a sister-in-law, it is not particularly appropriate to live in her sister and brother-in-law's house, even if they built a large villa. Living together will always be inconvenient, so Wanda lives in the back house with Ling and Hatch, and the different areas of Wano country are also divided among their own people. Most of the rights of Jiuli were given to Zorora, and now this place is considered the second settlement of the Fur tribe. She only comes here occasionally to eat. There is a large cafeteria on Ghost Island, and one person is responsible for collecting food. It's not her first day to share meals here, and these two little guys should have been used to it. Do you want to eat this? Seeing that the two little guys didn't look away, she looked at the things in front of her and wondered what was wrong. It was just a few more chicken legs. The Fur tribe did not eat mammals with fur. Birds, fish and sea beasts became the main sources of meat. According to the differences in their own racial genes, the Fur tribe also had different needs for food. The genes of her family were all carnivores. The food of this family was mainly meat. There was no obvious difference. Auntie, shouldn't you go for training? Train? Wolf's words confused Wanda. When was it the turn of these two little guys to urge her to train? Yes, you are so big, but you don't even know how to use the moon lion. Miawana echoed on the side. Only the Fur tribe who learned the moon lion can move freely on the day of the full moon. Children must be grounded on that night. Although the combat power increase brought by the moon lion is terrifying, it is a berserk skill after all. A half-baked person will die of exhaustion when using the moon lion. Except for the elite among the elites, ordinary Fur tribes will also feel tired after using the moon lion. Children do not have enough self-control. They cannot guarantee that they will not look at the moon at all during the full moon. In order to prevent accidents, even if they follow the free-range model of the Fur tribe, they will not let their children go out when they are full moon. This is also the reason why Setsuna refuses to teach the two children to learn the moon lion now. Being too young is only one aspect. With the talents of these two little guys, it may not be impossible to start learning the moon lion now. But they have not mastered this ultimate skill yet and are already a little lawless. It is definitely not a good thing to let them master the moon lion too early. This is the main reason why Setsuna refuses to let them learn the moon lion. If they teach now, I'm afraid that their house will be demolished when they are full moon. These two children have a bit of intergenerational inheritance and seem to have inherited the active genes of Hatch. Who said I can't do it? I'm also a member of the Musketeers. How could I not know the moon lion? Listening to Miawana's doubts, Wanda seemed to understand the reason. These two little guys seemed to regard themselves as useless trash who only know how to eat and have no use. Of course, she had to refute this. Wanda is 21 years old this year. In terms of talent, she is indeed not as freakish as Setsuna, but in terms of the average level of the Fur tribe, Wanda is also at the top. Being selected into the Musketeers is the best proof. The number of the Fur tribe is small, and there is no system like the army, because they are a race where everyone is a soldier. They usually live on the back of the elephant master and are isolated from the world. If they encounter an enemy, it means invasion. At that time, all the Fur tribes can be transformed into powerful warriors. The Musketeers are a special case. They perform military duties, but they are not ordinary troops. In Zal, the Musketeers are responsible for guarding the medical clinic behind the furry principality and protecting the safety of the Duke. Those who can join the Musketeers are elite warriors of the Fur tribe. As the king's personal guard, they are not just for show, but real elites. Mastering the moon lion is the stepping stone to join the Musketeers. Wanda could use the moon lion many years ago, but the endurance is a little lower. Yes, it's me, Wanda. When did you learn the moon lion? Why don't I remember it? With a bang, a large wooden plate was placed in the middle of the table, and Setsuna walked back to the dining table with the heated staple food. Wanda was about to say that she was taught by Setsuna, but then she saw Setsuna's slightly threatening eyes. Auntie, do you know how to do it? Yes, Auntie, you are not bragging, are you? Seeing that Wanda did not give an answer immediately, Miawana and Wolf's expressions turned from excitement to disappointment, and then with a hint of contempt. I do or I don't know. Wanda suddenly lost her confidence and didn't know how to answer. I think you didn't rest well yesterday. Why don't I remember that you learned the moon lion? Have a sandwich and take a rest. This is a special supply that Zorora brought back from Onigashima. As he said that, he picked up a sandwich and stuffed it into Wanda's mouth, temporarily blocking her mouth. Onigashima's special fried chicken sandwich, the supreme mixed version of secret seasoning, is still very rich in taste and nutrition, but it is a bit choking. Setsuna did not really find an example of someone who did not know how to do the moon lion. In that case, he should find Beppo. He has not yet learned the moon lion. His talent in this regard is somewhat lacking. If she really found someone who didn't know how to do it, it would be a problem if the other person suddenly learned it or never learned it. Therefore, she just found an excuse. It didn't matter whether Wanda knew how to do moon lion or not. What mattered was that she didn't know how to do it in Wolf and Miawa's perception. Only at the right time, such as the right time to learn, could she learn how to do moon lion. Don't even think about it, you two. That state is not suitable for you now. Wait until you grow up. By then, the power of moon lion and Lord Arceus will be indispensable to you. Eat well now, and then you can grow up quickly. Don't think about stealing and learning. Your father won't teach you either. The food changed the topic. Children's interest in one thing usually doesn't last long. It didn't take long for the topic to be changed. It was just that Wanda seemed to have a bragging title. The food on the table was quickly eaten up, and several people also entered a state of being full. There was more than one person in this state. In Beiwu, Yamato was observing the situation of Shakira. Today, it was a little sluggish and looked listless. He was not as energetic as usual, and he just lay lazily on the ground and did not respond to her calls. Note, the last sentence of the previous chapter was deleted, and the jump was a bit large, so I slightly edited it. Chapter 693, Bankero's Eastern Storm. Shakira, are you feeling unwell? Almost Doll had just left here. The auscultation results had confirmed that Shakira was in good health and all indicators were stable. Almost Doll couldn't explain why it was like this. The Pokémon Center is called the Pokémon Center, but it is essentially a hospital serving humans. For the current large number of Pokémon, there have been some studies on the possible diseases that may occur in them, such as the overcharging of the mare and the hair loss of the Wind Fairy. But for Pokémon as rare as Shakira, only Arceus can figure out what's wrong. It's just that Shakira is not sick, but there have been some changes in her personality. Yamato did not contact Arceus because of this. Shakira. After a long time, Shakira gave her reply, and the pores on her body began to deflate, and even some cracks appeared on her body surface. What are you doing? Before Yamato could react, the cracks on Shakira's body suddenly split open, and dazzling white light emanated from it, gradually enveloping Shakira's body, and its size was also rapidly increasing. Soon, a giant monster over 20 meters tall, much taller than King Yangwu, appeared in the square. Ban! The monster roared to the sky, as if stretching its limbs. Although Shakira was flexible, it was only in the state of a pupa. When it emerged from the cocoon and became a butterfly, it would be the final form, Desert Tyrant Bankera. It looked like a dinosaur similar to Godzilla and was covered with a green shell. This was their solid armor that could resist most attacks. Several spikes extended from the back of the head, neck and shoulders, looking ferocious and terrifying. There was also a circle of smaller spikes at the end of the tail, which, like the tail of an ankylosaur, formed its own tail hammer, which could cause great damage to the enemy in battle. From his wide open mouth, you could see two pairs of sharp canine teeth, which were also the only teeth in Bankera's mouth. At this time, it looked more like a juvenile Euchera, but it was much larger overall. The holes in the armor were still retained, but the exposed abdomen was no longer a weak point, but a similar keratinized shell. Wow, so cool. You are so handsome after evolution? It is still very complicated to build a Gundam now, but if there is no Gundam, there will be monsters. There are people who like monsters. As long as they are not extremely ugly, even monsters can have their own fans. Bankera agreed with Yamato's words. He also thought he was very handsome, but the next moment, his action broke this feeling. He moved his arms, looked at the 3 small claws on it, and immediately grabbed a large piece of stone from the ground and threw it into his mouth without saying a word. He hadn't enjoyed the feeling of feasting for a long time. Chakra is a pupa form. In this state, Chakra spends most of its time digesting the energy accumulated from the Kira period until it completes a new round of evolution. The things stored in their bodies make them not lack food, but not lacking does not mean that they don't want to eat. For a foodie, not being able to eat happily for a whole stage is simply torture. Due to its body structure, it could only taste some things in the Chakra period. At that stage, its mouth was just a small gap, and it could only eat a little to satisfy its cravings. Otherwise it would be able to reimburse all the previous building materials. Whether it was soil or rock, it was thrown into the mouth by Bankura, and soon a big pit appeared on the ground. Only then did it stop with unsatisfied intentions. It sat on the ground with a satisfied look on its face. Most people could not see that this guy was actually a moving disaster, a real monster that could change mountains and rivers. And after it sat down, Yamato found some abnormalities. The sky suddenly darkened. It was not dark, but the dust covered the sun in the sky, and a huge sandstorm suddenly appeared here. After evolving, Bankura lost its ground type attributes and became a rock plus evil Pokemon. At the same time, its characteristics also became dust raising. Wherever it appeared, sandstorms would also appear. The greening of Wano country is very good, and sandstorms have never appeared for many years. The yellow sand all over the sky made the local residents a little overwhelmed for a while. Before, it had just evolved and was not familiar with the power of physical strength. As it gradually took control of its own body, its own characteristics began to take effect. However, the most affected were not ordinary residents, but the ability users who happened to pass by nearby. This Bankura was not only huge in size, but also grew up eating sea stone. They could not freely generate sea stone, but in the first half an hour after the stones were made, those stones had the same effect as sea stone. After about 15 minutes, the power began to dissipate, and half an hour later, they were ordinary stones. This was the conclusion reached when the small fist was born. This Bankura did not create an ordinary sandstorm, but a sea stone storm. On the battlefield, it could even bang ability users in an area. In addition to sand and gravel, there is also dust. When these dusts with sea stone components are inhaled by people, their abilities are limited at the least, and they are directly paralyzed and fall to the ground at the worst. The biggest disadvantage is that they cannot distinguish between friend and foe. Speed was affected by this aspect and collapsed directly on the ground. The violent sandstorm still hurt his body. If no one helped, the weak ability users might be buried alive in front of Bankura. Bankura, stop. Stop this sandstorm. At first, Yamato was still curious about the climate. There was no desert country in the countries she had visited, but she soon found the problem. If it continued like this, it would really become a disaster. Bankura sandstorm is not uncontrollable. It is a special skill that they use their own energy to launch. If it cannot be stopped, the characteristic of blowing sand would have turned the world into a desert long ago. According to the proportion of sea stone energy, the range and intensity of the sandstorm can also be adjusted. Now the scale and intensity of the sandstorm created by Bankura are not too big, but the sand under her feet has already covered her ankles. If she doesn't stop, she will definitely be exhausted later. Just like repairing the floor, Arceus is likely to let her be responsible for cleaning up the yellow sand. After hearing the order, Bankura began to mobilize the energy in her body. The sandstorm disappeared here after a while. The sand was filled by Bankura herself into the pit she had eaten before. As time passed, they turned into ordinary yellow sand again. The excess was eaten directly by itself, greatly reducing waste, but many houses around were covered with dust, so a big cleanup was inevitable. This behavior of consuming physical energy to make sand and then eating it again did not replenish physical energy, but it could satisfy its craving for food. For Bankura, this was similar to a special kind of rumination. A weak and powerless day with 2 updates. Chapter 694. After defeating Kaido, you will be the boss here. Bankura silently ate the sand, not interested in what was happening around him. In the records of the Pokemon world, Bankera mostly appeared as a disaster, and the damage it caused was even more serious than that of Gyarados. Gyarados only destroyed objects on the surface, but Bankera could really change the course of mountains and rivers. For example, when they encountered a mountain, they sometimes did not choose to climb over or bypass it, but ate it. They could eat a tunnel directly on the mountain to the opposite side, or directly block the river to build a bridge. These were all things Bankera could do. This Bankera was different. It had a more easygoing personality, but it was a little greedy. This big guy's definitely a nightmare for people with special abilities. Cough cough. Cilicia and Mizika helped speed up and patted her back. In the previous sandstorm, several people choked on sand, but Cilicia and Mizika, who had not eaten the fruit yet, were much better than Speed. They coughed twice, and they were fine. Although they were covered in dust and needed to take a good bath, Speed was different. Due to her personal performance, she was given a devil fruit at the previous Beast annual meeting. This was originally her advantage, but now it has become a disadvantage. Is it that serious? PFFT. Wait until you eat the fruit one day, then find it and experience it, and you will know what it feels like. He spit a few mouthfuls of saliva to the side, took off his coat and boots and shook them for a long time, before cleaning up the sand. The remaining powder had no effect. The feeling of powerlessness that Seaston brings to the ability user is difficult to describe. It can only be said that the weaker the person, the greater the impact. If there is no way to block the sandstorm, a very scary forbidden magic field will appear within the range, which does not distinguish between enemies and friends. As Shakira evolved into Bankera, new problems followed one after another. It had to move to another place to live. When it was in the pupa form before, it could go anywhere at will, but now with this monster-like body, many places are inconvenient to go. Onigashima can still accommodate it, but how to pass through the inland sea has become a new problem. Shakira can fly with jets, but Bankera can't. It is a rock type and can't swim, so it's not worth building a ship specifically for it to pass through the inland sea. There are ships that can carry this size. Jack, Kaido, Arceus and others have this ability, but those ships have more important uses. In the past, there was no bridge connecting Onigashima and the mainland of Wano country. Even the members of the beasts on the island had to go in and out of here by boat. Now there is another member who can't swim, and the bridge construction plan has been put on the agenda. Today, Onigashima no longer needs to be completely separated from Wano country. With the evolution of Bankera, new activities have gradually been put on the agenda. The appearance of Bankera is not just a pet and partner. Like King Yanwu, it has the intention of being a war weapon. King Yanwu was born earlier and has represented the beasts many times, while Bankera is still a newcomer and needs an opportunity to go out and move around. Beishao has a legitimate business called Beishao Fruit, which earns huge profits every year, but their essence is still pirates. In the eyes of people in Beishao's territory today, Beishao is their protector and god of wealth, providing too many things that were not available before, but it is different in the eyes of outsiders. In the eyes of outsiders, Beishao is not a good person at all, but a real and powerful villain. There are many things they will not do, but it does not mean that they have nothing to do with pirates. Fighting, looting, and robbing are still their daily routines, but they will choose the target before taking action. Whether it is the treasure of pirates, the supplies of other caravans or kingdoms, or the supplies escorted by the navy, they dare to rob. Everything in the territory is protected by them, but it is different for non-partners outside the territory. This more realistic pirate life makes Yamato not very fond of it. She prefers adventure rather than looting. Godfather, is it unnecessary to do this? That day, in front of the treasure house of Onigashima, when Arceus was counting some strategic supplies, Yamato asked his own question. What do you mean? The money earned from the 100 Beasts fruit in Tesoro is enough to spend, and there are also a lot of treasures on that island and the gold on Sky Island. I think treasure hunting alone is enough to maintain our daily expenses. There is no need to fight them. Just rob these things back. There is nothing wrong with what you said. These incomes can maintain the expenses of the entire 100 beasts. We don't rely on plundering to survive. Pirates who live by robbing are all low-level pirates. The Sea Emperor of the New World has long transformed this method into taxation. As long as it is robbed, There is no difference in essence. That is, most of the treasures of other pirates are also robbed from others. The difference is that they did not directly handle it, which can make them feel a little better on the moral level. Why then? Because the governor of the Beast's pirates is now named Kaido. If you want to completely change all this, I don't object, provided that you can beat your father. Yeah. This is a twisted world. A piece of paper cannot bind anyone. The strong impose their own order, based on their own preferences. Whether you want to change the beasts or the whole world, the premise is that you have to be strong enough. The beasts are now used to it more, because Kaido himself is a fighting faction. It is more difficult to stop him from fighting than to stop him from drinking. The people of Arceus are engaged in development, while the people of Kaido are developing military power and planning for the future war. Kaido's philosophy has always been that the strong are respected and the status is determined by force. If he is really defeated by Yamato one day, he may accept a request. Knock him down, Godfather. You should know what his strongest form looks like. Does he have any weaknesses? Don't think about those unrealistic things. Unless you stab him in the heart in advance, it's meaningless to know his weaknesses. The battle with Whitebird was basically his strongest form. But he will become stronger. You still have a long way to go if you want to knock him down. Instead of thinking about it, why not try to talk to Zekrom and Reshiram? They are easy to communicate. I have helped you enough. Yamato did not experience a fixed distance race, but a chase. While she was getting stronger, Kaido was also improving his strength through endless battles. The perfection of the collapse of the 8 diagrams is a proof that it is not an easy way to surpass him. The power of the 2 dragons is the simplest way to break through, but so far, Yamato has only dealt with half of Zekrom. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 695, Kaido's Supply Method. Listening to Arceus' words, Yamato thought of some very scary scenes, or memories. After all, 3/4 of her 20 years of life had been beaten by Kaido. With Kaido's character, it was impossible to change his ideas. Only force could make him change his mind. As for Zekrom and Reshiram, she tried, but the progress was limited. It can only be said that there were some results. Now Zekrom sometimes listens to her nagging and gives some replies, unlike before, when he was completely indifferent. Reshiram still maintains the same state. She doesn't think there is anything good about these two. There is no need to ask Yamato. Arceus has already received some feedback from Zekrom and Reshiram. Zekrom is okay, but Reshiram's evaluation of Yamato is absolutely naive and has no idea what the truth is. Yamato, maybe it's time to let you get in touch with reality more. Reality? Take Speed and the others with you and go out to sea alone. It will take half a month and you can go anywhere. Half a month is equivalent to a round trip, which is only a week's journey. The time is not too abundant, but it is acceptable. If the ship is fast enough, this time is enough to run from the territory of the beasts to the territory of Big Mom. Is there any meaning in this? Of course, because this time is different from the past. It is your true alone trip. We will not provide you with any help in supplies and logistics. At this time, Yamato did not understand what this sentence meant. It was not until the moment of sailing that she understood what all this meant. Where is my ship? How did it become a wooden boat like this? In front of her was not her exclusive vehicle, but an ordinary small sea ship in Wano country. If the navigation skills were not up to standard, it would be unknown whether she could sail out of Wano country. Sir, this is the order of Lord Arceus. Your ship was also built with the financial resources and technology of the beasts, and is also part of the logistics of supplies. Except for fresh water, there is no other supplies on this ship. Yamato was born different from ordinary people. Kaido's thinking made her childhood unhappy. This is the result of Arceus. Even with this variable, it can only be said that it is mixed. But in terms of material, she has never lacked. From the day she was born, Jigglypuff and Milk can have been with her. Whether it is food or use, it is top notch. Even when she grows up, the equipment for travel is the same. The logistics of the beasts meet her needs. With the various cutting-edge technologies on the ship and her own strength, her voyage is more like an outing. Therefore, she has never experienced the reality of the sea. With this strength, she can avoid most of the troubles, but the loss of external supplies can also allow her to better experience this world. If she could not operate the ship alone, she might really experience traveling alone. After Speed and the other two were assigned to Yamato, they acted as her assistants. According to their different interests, they also learned different knowledge. Speed, who was a part-time navigator, Mizuka, who was a part-time cook, and Celicia, who was a part-time helmsman, were able to operate most of the ships. As for Yamato herself, in addition to being the captain, she could also do all the manual labor and military activities. If it was her own ship, there would be many Pokemon that could help her, but now all of them are gone. At the same time as she set sail, the Origin was also prepared and started a new round of voyages, but compared to the glorious Origin, this small boat seemed a little shaky. What year is this antique ship from? Touching the side of the ship, and looking at the dust on his hands, Yamato began to doubt whether the ship could still be sailed. Sir, Lord Arceus said that this is the ship they used when they first set sail. It is not valuable in itself, but it is very memorable. If you break it, what will happen? Just tell me directly. What's there to be afraid of? Well, Lord Arceus means that if it breaks, then in the next year, Governor Kaido will not stop him from doing anything. Snap, snap. Yamato patted herself on the face to cheer herself up. Okay. The first goal of this voyage is to protect this ship no matter what. When someone interferes, Kaido behaves like a madman. If no one takes care of him for a year, she can't imagine what kind of horrible days that would be. From the moment she set out, she kept a close eye on things that would threaten the ship. If Arceus hadn't called the Magikarp and Gyarados outside, she would have planned to ask them to help pull the boat. After all, the ocean currents outside Wano country are too dangerous. In the end, she chose to freeze a relatively safe route with the attendant Ice Fang, and sailed steadily towards the outside world. About a week after Arceus and Yamato left Wano, Kaido received new intelligence from his subordinates. The two of them had left Wano, and the one who stayed here and made the decisive judgment was of course Kaido. Brother Kaido, this is the consumption this year. Due to various reasons, precious wood has become particularly popular this year. Various forces are collecting high quality wood outside, and our ships have also suffered serious damage. This year's replenishment may be delayed. Jack, have you been infected by Yamato? Listening to Jack's report, he scratched his head impatiently. Brother Kaido, what do you mean? We are pirates. Why don't we just go to whoever has it? Do you still have to queue up honestly? Let me think. Last time I passed by the kingdom of Stantine, I seemed to see that they had a very good fleet. You can go there and rob 10 ships back as a supplement. Kaido recalled the fleet he had seen before. Those large warships were just enough to replenish the current losses of the beasts. 10 ships. Brother Kaido, shouldn't we take all of them? Take all of them? Will they just gather dust? We have enough people now with 10 ships. If we take them all at once, what will happen if the kingdom declines? Just take some of them and wait for them to replenish them. This way, we can go to them again when we are short of ships next time. What is it called? By the way, sustainable development. Arceus said this. I think it means this. I see. I'll set off right away. Wait. Take Bankira and Enthusiast King with you and try to see how these two big guys work together. Under Kaido's order, Jack embarked on this journey with the two behemoths. Enthusiast King has been through the test, but this is the first time for Bankira. How the two behemoths will work together is still an unknown. The end of the year is approaching. I'm quite busy, so I will update twice. Chapter 696, The Giant Beast Going Out. Hurry up. People over there, don't dawdle, load all these stones. War is fought with logistics. Even pirates have to prepare the materials needed for the battle before the battle. They are not ordinary pirates who just find a ship on the sea. Their target is the active fleet of the Kingdom of Stantine. The Kingdom of Stantine is one of the countries on the Grand Line, and also a member country. In addition to the protection of the Navy, they can maintain a stable regime on the Grand Line. They also have their own means of protecting themselves, and the means are numerous. but in the final analysis, they all have a strong kingdom army. In this world, dominated by the sea, the importance of the army is far less than that of the navy, but the kingdom of Stantine is not good at naval warfare, so they chose a slightly compromised way, outsourcing. The kingdom of Stantine built dozens of large warships with its own national strength, and formed the fleet of the Ottomeria Grand Fleet. This fleet is not only a navy to protect the kingdom, but also a pirate with the official plundering authority of the kingdom of Stantine. This is not surprising. In this era of great navigation, the armies of many countries also work part-time as pirates. Different islands have different customs, and the style of the army depends entirely on the king's preferences. Moreover, the laws of the world government only protect member states. As long as they do not plunder the materials of member states, all their actions are legally correct. The relationship between countries on the Grand Route is also very complicated. Some get along well with others, and some have feuds. On the vast ocean, it is difficult to trace the disappearance of a ship. To be precise, if the world government intends to dilute the existence of an island, even if the island is erased, no one can find any trace. The Ottomeria fleet now has a total of 56 large warships with a standing number of 4,300 people. These are all people who are proficient in naval warfare. In addition, a large number of kingdom soldiers can be loaded on board for transportation. These ships are large enough for even the giants to ride. Kaido had seen the fleet of this country when he was wandering aimlessly before, so he remembered it. Brother, we can't fit it in anymore. Aren't these enough? Not enough. Remove the cannons and the shells. This ship doesn't need that kind of stuff. Ah, no cannons? Hearing the order to remove the cannons, the pirates hesitated. What nonsense are you talking about? What kind of cannon can compare to the pet of Lady Gigi? As long as it is fed, there is no need for cannons. Where do you think the big hole on the outer island shooting range came from? Lady Gigi's pet is really special. Stop talking nonsense, move it quickly. If it can't eat enough, you can go to the bottom of the sea to fish for eats for it yourself. Because of the two behemoths, Yanwooking and Bankura, the supplies carried this time were also very unconventional, reducing the carrying of conventional gunpowder, and filling the gap with the firepower of Bankura and Yanwooking themselves. They can be regarded as mobile flamethrowers and heavy turrets, which are incomparable to the main guns of conventional warships. While they were nervously moving things, Bankura and King Yanwu had already boarded the ship successfully. At this time, King Yanwu was imparting his experience to his predecessors. Wow, don't be nervous. Just use a few skills to scare them, and they will run away in fear. Besides, their attacks don't hurt people at all. Wow, it shouldn't hurt you at all. King Yanwu patted Bankura's shoulder, and then confirmed his judgment. Bankura was the second Pokemon to appear in Wano country. Normally, it was a giant Pokemon. As a rare kind, King Yanwu preferred to communicate with it. Will the ship sink? I can't swim. Wow, it's very solid. Even if it sinks, there are emergency plans. Compared to fighting, Bankura is a little afraid of water. Some Bankuras are gifted and can learn the skill of surfing, but that is a very special case, just like the surfing Tyrannosaurus Rex, and not everyone in the game can learn it. The size of this Bankura caused its own weight to be extremely large, and it was impossible to ride the waves. Those that can swim can only be said to be individual differences of Pokemon. Even the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is 4 times weak to water, can swim. The Groudon Protection Association has always had some objections to this. Woo. Led by Jack, several pirate ships sailed out of Onigashima and headed towards the sea area in the Intelligence, but there was a small incident on the way. Hold on. Where is the icebreaker? Get an icebreaker to open the way. In the outer sea of Wano country, Jack and others' ships were disturbed by the ice on the sea surface that appeared inexplicably. The weather in Wano country is very changeable. The weather has been relatively cold recently, but it is the first time to encounter ice. This is a factor left by Yamato. In order to be safe, she froze the sea surface and left only a passage. Moreover, the waves near Wano country are turbulent. If you want a safe passage, you have to freeze a larger area of the sea surface. She herself can't tell how much area of the sea surface was frozen by Wushi Binya at the beginning, and how thick the ice layer was. As a result, the recent extreme low temperature has caused the ice to not completely melt, but instead formed an obstacle that hindered the subsequent ships from sailing. If the beasts did not sometimes go to the cold sea, they would not have the configuration of icebreakers at all. Don't bother, just warm up first. King Yanwu, get rid of the ice. There were newcomers on the ship who had never seen King Yanwu in action. In order to let them understand the capabilities of his war weapon, Jack decided to let King Yanwu show off his capabilities. This would save time and effort compared to looking for an icebreaker first, and it would only cost some food. There was a special metal disc on the deck, which was King Yanwu's exclusive gun position. When it reached the predetermined position, a fierce column of fire shot forward, melting the ice and completely igniting the fighting spirit of all beasts. Chapter 697. Brother Kaido is indeed a master of strategy. Grand Line, Kingdom of Stantine. They don't know that they have been targeted by the beasts of the New World, and the target is the fleet they use to fight pirates. Your Majesty, this is the report of Olonbu this year. They found a treasure and solved some competitors. The corresponding things have been sent to the treasury. Olonbu, the captain of the fleet hired by the Kingdom of Stantine and the actual controller of the Ottomaria Grand Fleet, is called the Cunning Adventure Killer on the Sea. He has an agreement with the Kingdom of Stantine. The Kingdom of Stantine provides him with logistical supplies, and he is responsible for the battle at sea, including but not limited to a series of actions such as finding treasures, fighting pirates, and eliminating competitors. Not bad. It seems that this deal is correct. With this guy all on booth, the country's income has been rising. Now we don't have to worry about paying the gold from heaven and suffering for a while. Your Majesty is wise. By the way, Your Majesty, a group of pirates looted the island to our east and are still occupying it. The garrison has asked for help several times. Let Olonbu take people to reinforce. I don't need to teach you this little thing, right? Yes, I understand. The Ottomaria fleet does not have to attack with all its troops. Due to the mission of the Kingdom of Stantine, they will also split up their troops. For example, this time, Olonbu led his 12 ships and more than 1,000 people to the destination. The island that was floating outside is also the territory of the Kingdom of Stantine. Due to historical issues, the area of many countries is not a whole piece. Kingdoms with large areas of land like Alabaster are relatively rare. Even if there are more deserts, it is still real territory, which is extremely rare in this world. No one will dislike that their land area is too large, and occupying some islands is also a common thing. Sir, I have sent out the message for help as you said. Can you let me go? At this time, the island for help had been occupied. The message for help was sent out under the threat of the beasts, with the purpose of attracting their support fleet. Throw him to prison and let them deal with it later. Ignoring the man's words, the pirates of the beasts threw him into the prison on the island and put him under guard again. Brother Jack, is it necessary to go to the door directly? It's okay, right? Yes, Brother Jack, I haven't heard of any well-known strong people here. The pirates on the side didn't understand why they had to surround a point to attack the reinforcement, or rather, to surround a point to grab the reinforcement. Brother Kaido said that we need to develop steadily and sustainably. The G1 and G5 branches of the Navy are nearby. If they come over, it will be difficult for us to take the ship away. The blatant attack on the allied countries may make the other side call for the support of the Navy. He is not afraid of the Navy. He doesn't think those Navy can do anything to him. It's an ordinary kingdom, and the admiral of the headquarters will not take action for this. But if they are really entangled, it will be very difficult to take the ship away. And we can't scare them. Otherwise, what should we do next time? Let them think that we dare not attack the mainland, so that it will be easier to act. But Brother Jack, what if the Navy really receives the news and rushes over? Then sink them. Just a Navy. Who do you think I am? Undermanned a fish's kind teaching. Jack understood what it meant to be cautious, but he was still an extreme reckless man in his bones. If someone told him to act carefully, but if something unexpected happened, he would end everything in a very violent way. Okay, you go and arrange the stuff, and give me the strawberries, fresh ones. It's been prepared, Brother Jack. There is everything in the kitchen of this island. No wonder so many nobles come here for vacation. Jin Rami handed over a basket of fresh strawberries. That was Frost Milk Fairy's lunch today. Before, he had been sailing on the sea, and strawberries were not easy to preserve. It had been a long time since he had been given fresh strawberries to eat. You are wrong. It is because of the nobles' vacation here that there are such perfect logistical supplies. Remember to make a good deal out of them. Yes. The irrelevant people were driven out, leaving Jack alone here to feed Frost Milk Fairy and wait for the arrival of reinforcement. Admiral, we are almost there. What is the identity of the other party? I didn't see it. They don't seem to have hung the pirate flag in the town. Strange. Are the pirates really occupying here? After occupying a town, ordinary pirates will definitely hang their pirate flags at the highest point, for fear that others will not know who occupied this place. This abnormality makes people feel a little strange. Admiral, do you want to continue moving forward? Wait, Admiral. New situation. There are several pirate ships moving around. They seem to want to surround us. Attack immediately after entering the range. There are only 3 ships. Do you still want to surround us? Oren Booth gave his own order, but at the same time as he said this, he found that the wind on the sea began to increase, and then something hit his face one after another, and he felt a slight pain. The sky began to darken, and the vision was gradually obscured. Only the shadow of the ship in the distance could be vaguely seen. This sandstorm. After living for so many years, it was the first time he saw a sandstorm on the sea. Even though the climate on the Grand Line was changeable, he had never seen such outrageous weather. This strong sandstorm was naturally the work of Bankara, but it did not have the energy of Seaston, just an ordinary sandstorm. This way, the consumption was less, and the range of sandstorms that could be generated was wider, enough to cover the small area of the sea where the battle was about to take place. Well, the ship on the far left, Bankara, sink it. Ban. Although he didn't quite understand why he had to do this, Bankara still chose to obey the order, opened his mouth, and a destructive death ray began to brew. Brother Jack, why do we have to sink that ship? Isn't our mission to take the ship back? Huh. Brother Kaido told us to take 10 ships back, but there are 12 ships in total. Brother Kaido said that we only want the ships, and not the people, so leave 1 ship for them to take the people back to avoid scaring them. The remaining ship will be used as a target to scare the monkeys, and make them dare not resist. Aren't there exactly 10 ships left? Brother Kaido must have foreseen this situation a long time ago, so he gave such an order. Shaina took Arceus' words as an imperial decree, and so did Jack. For someone he admired from the bottom of his heart, Kaido was omnipotent in his mind, so he made up some things in his mind and thought that the reason Kaido said 10 ships was that he must have foreseen the scale of the other party's support. Kaido, who was far away on Onigashima, didn't know. He just estimated a number casually, and Jack made up this thing in his mind. Chapter 698. You thought it was Jack, but it was actually me, the Frost Milk Fairy. Yellow sand filled the sky, and visibility on the sea further decreased. It's not that they haven't encountered similar situations before. The climate of the Grand Route is changeable, and thick sea fog is not uncommon, but the sandstorm created by Bankara is more deadly than sea fog. When sea fog appears, they only need to be careful of the reefs in the ocean. When the wind and waves are not strong, they can even choose to drop anchor and stop the ship, but this sandstorm is different. The yellow sand hitting their faces makes them unable to open their eyes, and the sand flowing into the seams of their clothes also affects the state of the sailors. The shadow of the enemy ship under the yellow sand also increases their psychological burden. There will be no sandstorm on the sea for no reason. This sea area is their territory, and the climate is already in their control. It's either a natural situation or the enemy's hand. It can change the weather. No matter how you think about it, it's not an ordinary opponent. At this moment, the Den Mushi on the ship sounded a serious voice. Calm down. All on Booth's voice seemed to have some kind of magic, and the soldiers who heard his voice immediately calmed down. Cover your eyes with gauze. Line up. At the designated position, the bombardment begins. The reason why the King of Stantine Kingdom valued All on Booth was because of this ability. The team he managed could obey his orders, not because their army was so powerful, but because of the pressure brought by All on Booth himself. He himself called the Admiral's Majesty. Not only his own people, but even the enemies would line up in a neat square formation uncontrollably when facing him. In this sandstorm environment, Orlon Booth was in a bad mood. His majesty had a lot to do with his fierce appearance, but his inner self was not entirely like this. Not only did he do things in a methodical manner, but he also had a misophobia. The yellow sand all over the sky was a torture for him. Snap. The whip in his hand hit the deck. The sailors on his ship had adjusted the firing range of the artillery. If the weather was normal, other ships could make judgments through flag signals, or by observing the actions of the main ship. But now they could only act according to the voice of the Den Mushi. They couldn't see the specific location of the target, so they just had to block the general location with firepower. Their firepower and ammunition reserves were enough to meet this problem. At the same time, Bankira also locked onto his target, but when it was about to release the destructive death ray, Jack called it to stop. 1 minute ago, his subordinates raised a very fatal question. Brother Jack, why didn't we reveal the pirate flag before, but only now? Of course we were afraid of scaring them away. Now we have surrounded them, so we don't have to hide. But Brother Jack, letting the pet of Lady Oni sink the ship is also for deterrence, right? Sip said, where do you get so many questions? Well, I have one last question. Since it is for deterrence and to show identity, do we have to let them see it? Seeing that Jack was a little impatient, Sip's head went straight to the point, which was also the question he was most curious about now. The yellow sand all over the sky obscured the vision, and the enemy couldn't see anything clearly. Since they couldn't see anything clearly, how could they deter the other party? At this time, Jack was wearing a pair of windproof glasses, which was the new standard equipment on the ship, so that his eyes would not be blocked under the yellow sand. This pair of lenses also made Jack's expression less obvious. Jack prefers to use his fists rather than his brain. It is already great that he can come up with this plan. Now that there are some mistakes, it is understandable. Listening to Sip's head's doubts, Jack did not give an answer. He was thinking about how to solve this problem without losing face. It was at this time that Frostmilk climbed up against the wind and sand. This is not a game world. Sandstorms do not necessarily cause damage. This magnitude will not cause damage to Frostmilk. Why did you come out? Compared with the size of Frostmilk, Jack's height is like a mountain. Frostmilk's climbing is similar to climbing a mountain, but Jack found him halfway up. In this kind of action with little risk, Jack always takes Frostmilk with him, but he will hide in the cabin after the battle begins. This time, it came out to make suggestions. Everyone on the ship felt that this plan had some flaws, but they all thought that Jack had other arrangements. Even if they had a small doubt, they did not dare to raise it, so Sip's head asked at the last minute. But Frostmilk was different. It had guessed that Jack had not made any follow-up arrangements. It had been thinking of ways before. When the sound of the shells in the wind and sand reached its ears, it had a new idea. The wind and sand were too strong, which affected its speech a little, but with its rich body language and cream painting, Jack still understood what it meant. Well, that's right. With the help of the wind and sand, we can consume the enemy's shells, so that casualties can be reduced. With the assistance of Frostmilk, his mistakes were covered up. Even the younger brothers were excited for once, and they felt the care of their big brother. Some people even felt moved. This is not uncommon. Alden can move others, and this kind of care for his subordinates' boss is the same. Of course, the first thing to do now is to stop the sandstorm. In this way, Bankira temporarily changed his actions and put away his own sand-raising characteristics, which made King Yanwu at the stern breathe a sigh of relief. It and Bankira were separated on both sides of the ship. They were too heavy. If they didn't do this, it would easily cause the ship to lose balance. It didn't like the sandstorm. Even if it wasn't a sandstorm that could cause damage, it didn't like this kind of weather with flying yellow sand. Otherwise, it wouldn't live in Julie, where the environment was the most beautiful. The rich forests were the environment it liked. The sandstorm team was paired with a fire Pokemon. Trainers from another world would cry when they saw it. The bombardment of Oran Booth's men continued. Since they didn't know the specific target location, they could only gamble on luck and estimate the bombardment location according to the opponent's speed. It was also impossible to observe the effect of the bombardment. Due to an episode in the middle of the plan, the ship of the beast stopped on the spot and kept listening to the opponent firing blanks. As Bankira put away his power, the raging sandstorm stopped whistling and gradually disappeared in the sea. When the vision became clear again, the number of enemies appeared clearly in their eyes, but this did not make them feel relieved. Even Orenbuth's forehead shed a few drops of cold sweat. On the enemy ship, the pirate flag of the beasts was fluttering in the wind, and Bankira, who was standing on the bow and planning to destroy the death ray again, made them feel cold all over. Chapter 699, The Face of the Allied Countries. When did the Kingdom of Beasts and Stantine offend them? Orenbuth used to be an adventurer of the kingdom. Of course, there is not much difference between this kind of adventurer and pirate, but the protection of the allied countries prevents them from being wanted and becomes another kind of legal person. He has a kind side in his heart and will unconsciously help the weak. According to normal development, after he joined the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, he wanted to plunder like a pirate, but because the place he robbed was too poor, it became a poverty alleviation campaign. But this can't cover up his identity as a villain, a killing ruler, a cunning adventurer. Ordinary people will not be given this title. The nickname on the sea is still a little credible. At least the nickname and the real body are not completely unrelated. As an adventurer who travels in the first half of the Grand Line and even in the New World, eyesight is a must. If you want to survive in the New World, it is impossible not to recognize the flag of the Sea Emperor. They can't afford to offend those people. Especially the bigman pirates. They often tell the world not to forget the terror of the Sea Emperor. Among the 3 Sea Emperors now, Whitebird is the most tolerant in the territory and does not ask for too much. Beasts spend most of their time doing business. For the sake of long-term business, the islands in the territory are also very peaceful. But Big Mom is different. Due to her old problem of bulimia, eating is one of the most important things for the bigman pirates. If they cannot provide enough food within the deadline, the entire island will be destroyed. As the 3 major pirate groups with the same reputation, there is no reason why Beasts and Whitebird cannot do what the bigman pirates can do. Their 12 ships seem to be insufficient to deal with this situation. They have a numerical advantage, but even if they sink the other party's 3 ships, they will face greater troubles in the future. The other party is a pirate. No matter what the cause is, they will retaliate if their ships are sunk. The Kingdom of Stantine cannot deal with the madman Kaido, so they can choose to ask the Navy for help. But this is not a long-term solution. The Navy, or the world government, will not break the balance they can maintain for the sake of a kingdom. That is to say, they will not take the initiative to attack the beasts. Similarly, even if they let the admirals of the Navy stationed in the Kingdom of Stantine, they can only deal with it temporarily. The admirals of the Navy cannot stay here forever. When they leave, they will also suffer hardships. As for whether the world government will be embarrassed, it will not. They have 10,000 ways to explain their reasons, such as other kingdoms also need to be protected, too many casualties, and the other party has not yet taken action, so they cannot attack in advance. These are the outcomes that Orenbuth can foresee. Then Orenbuth adjusted the angle with a telescope in his hand. In the lens of the monocular telescope, Jack's figure filled the entire field of vision. Iron Mammoth Jack, the Carters of the Royal Group, are also on the list of key concerns. If the disaster level Carters are considered the first echelon, Jack is now the top Carter of the second echelon. Orenbuth does not think he is the opponent of the other party. He is good at Legion level operations. His Admiral Majesty makes his subordinates have better discipline. Absolute obedience to orders on the battlefield is one of the important factors in winning a battle. But people like Jack have broken the meaning of numbers. The Iron Mammoth is a real metal body, not the ultimate reckless man who exchanges ivory for bounty. In addition, there are 2 giant beasts that look very ferocious and terrifying. He doesn't think these things are inflatable toys that scare people. Before he can think about what to do, Bankira's lock has been completed. A thick beam of light spurted out of Bankira's mouth. The destructive death light that had finished charging pierced the hull in the blink of an eye, followed by a large-scale explosion. Not only the explosion caused by the destructive death light, but also the explosion of the ammunition depot that was detonated. The huge shockwave set off a huge tsunami, almost overturning the nearby ships. After the attack, Bankira's body temporarily fell into stiffness, but it did not cause much impact. Oren Booth's men did not fight back. The terrifying beam of light had already scared them. Even Oren Booth stared at Bankira in the distance with his eyes wide open. He saw clearly that the monster released this terrifying attack after charging, and Bankira was still standing there. He didn't believe that the monster could only attack once and destroyed a ship with one strike. If it weren't for the angle problem, he felt that the damage caused by the beam would be even greater. What was more fatal was that the ship was completely out of the range of their artillery. They didn't know that the release of the destructive death beam would cause stiffness, and the duration of this stiffness would become shorter and shorter after training. Bankira, who had just evolved, did not master this ability. In the eyes of Oren Booth and others, this was a precursor to Bankira's accumulation of power. With such a huge power, it is reasonable to accumulate power for a longer time. He did not order anyone to rescue people. Under an explosion of that scale, there is no possibility of survival unless you jump into the water in advance. It was at this time that Jack's flag signalman gave his own signal. "Admiral, those guys asked us to hand over 10 ships and leave on our own. These bastards." "Yes, Admiral, those bastard pirates are too much. Just fight them. Why didn't these bastards tell us earlier that they wanted ships?" The complaints of Oren Booth reached the ears of those around him, making them feel unbelievable. From his tone, they thought that their admiral was going to fight the other side, but Oren Booth was thinking about something else. The ship can be rebuilt, but the death of the people is the end. After his development of the Ottomaria fleet, these crew members have long been his loyal subordinates. They obey Oren Booth's orders more than the king. If the ship is lost, it can be rebuilt and bought again. Anyway, it is the kingdom's funds that are spent, but every time a subordinate is lost, he will suffer a loss. "Admiral, what do you mean? Abandon the ship. We can't afford to offend that guy. Let's go back and let the king have a headache. By the way, remember to notify the navy. This is beyond our ability to handle." In order to reduce losses, Oren Booth made the decision to retreat. As long as the manpower is still there, he can accept it. As for the headache, just leave it to the king. In the end, a group of people squeezed into a ship and fled here with large and small lifeboats. Jack was very satisfied with this. He thought his plan was very successful. Under the deterrence of force, the other party did not choose to fight, but directly took out what they wanted and chose to spend money to avoid disaster. The king, who received the news, was furious and strongly condemned Oren Booth's behavior of fleeing without fighting, but there was nothing he could do. The kingdom of Stantine still had to rely on him, and the beasts really couldn't afford to offend him, so he had to choose to complain to the world government. The king of a member country still had a little status. He asked the world government to immediately impose the most severe sanctions on the murderer, otherwise he, the king, would have no face at all. The result was also very clear. The world government directly ignored his later words. The world government assigned the task to the navy, so on the navy's intelligence table, the photos of King Yanwu, Bankira, Jack, and Quinn were once again placed on the blackboard by the meeting king Branu. Chapter 700, the beginning of the career of the meeting king, the new equipment equipped by Quinn. Branu, a lieutenant commander of the Navy headquarters, is a member of the Navy who is more civilian oriented. He is good at intelligence gathering. Since this talent was discovered, he has been responsible for gathering intelligence at many meetings of the Navy headquarters and conveying the latest news to generals at all levels. 5 days ago, the beast pirates attacked the kingdom of Stantine and robbed 10 warships belonging to the kingdom of Stantine in public. The navy below was not puzzled by this. With the ability of the beasts, it would be abnormal if they could not do such a thing. The 7 warlords of the sea have the ability to overthrow a country. A single member country is essentially powerless in the face of the Sea Emperor of the New World. But the way they robbed the ships is the main problem. The photos of Bankira and King Enwu appeared on the screen after being enlarged. The Dendenmushi on the Ottomaria fleet recorded some very terrifying scenes, such as the release of the destruction of the Death Ray and the destroyed ships. In addition, there are also the battle scenes of King Enwu recorded by the Navy. 15 years ago, a biological weapon called Yanwuking by the pirates of the beasts appeared on the sea. It is known that it has the ability to control fire, and its combat power far exceeds that of ordinary giants. To describe a person's strength, a comparison is needed. This is also one of the reasons for setting up a bounty system. Although there are some cases where the strength does not match the bounty can illustrate the strength of most people. Different pirate groups have different levels. The Navy has to face the entire sea and has no time to write down all the level sequences for conversion. The bounty has become the simplest measure of combat power. Through the bounty, the Navy can roughly understand the threat level of a pirate. For these biological weapons, the world government did not issue a bounty notice, so Branu changed to a very clear comparison object: the giants. The size has a decisive advantage in many aspects. The giants who joined the Navy are basically lieutenant generals, and most people do not have the ability to fight against the giants, exceeding the ordinary giants. This already shows the threat of the opponent. In the past 15 years, we haven't found a second similar creature. We thought it was just a coincidence, but the appearance of this monster broke this cognition. It's not that there are no strange creatures, but there are many. But there are already many strange creatures in the sea, which did not arouse the Navy's vigilance. There are many Gyarados and Magikarp, but it is precisely because of the large-scale appearance of these creatures that people have the illusion that it is a natural phenomenon. There are also inferences that Gyarados is a modified creature, but it has not been confirmed. So far, Gyarados has not participated in the actions of the beasts, and there is only one Manderfish, which makes it impossible to determine the specific information. But Bankira is different. If there is only one Flame King, it can be regarded as an individual case, but the second monster that appears is very special. If a second one can be created, there may be a third, a fourth, or even a whole army of giant beasts. This is the ability it has demonstrated: a destructive laser cannon, and the ability to manipulate sand and dust. The power of the laser cannon is enough to destroy a warship with one shot. If you find a giant ship of the 100 beasts, do not engage it at sea. At present, it seems that these two behemoths are suspected of obeying Jack's orders. He is very likely the commander of this behemoth army. This is why Jack's photo was put up together. The number of 2 is not large, but because of the size and terrifying deterrence, it is not unreasonable to regard it as a separate army. Okay, everyone, this is the main situation. To be notified of this meeting. The next is a more important issue: the Plague Queen. The photos of King Yanwu and Bankira were removed, leaving only the photo of Quinn. Plague Quinn, a veteran of the Beast's pirates and a member of the original MAD's research team, is suspected of having done more research on bloodline factors. According to the intelligence provided by the world government's CP department, the first appearance of the giant beast codenamed King Yanwu was under the command of Quinn. Of course, the people above have always been suspicious of this matter. Even though the focus of attention was on Quinn, they did not ignore the mysterious Arceus, but Arceus's whereabouts and actions made them confused. According to the summary of previous intelligence, his voyage was not like a pirate, but more like an old parent taking his children on a trip. This possibility was rejected as soon as it appeared. According to the intelligence here, although Arceus has less action, he is also the second in command of the beasts. How could such a person wander around with his children? There must be a secret that they have not discovered. Everyone knows that Kaido is looking for stones all over the world, but they have also studied the stones. In addition to being indestructible, they did not find any characteristics. They don't think that this kind of stone has a causal relationship with those terrifying beasts. There were too many mysterious things. They did not ignore each other, but they did not know where to start. They still put more energy on Quinn, who had traces to follow. Marshal Sengoku's order: if you find Quinn on the way to the mission, you can immediately change the mission to capture Quinn as the priority target, and you can call the headquarters for support. It is not wise to attack the base camps of those sea emperors, so this order will appear, but the execution of this order will not be very high. They have no way to predict where Quinn will appear, and Quinn's own strength is not weak. It is not so easy to keep him, especially for ordinary naval soldiers. Quinn's ability is completely a disaster. Without special defense, ordinary soldiers will most likely be wiped out by his plague bombs. Therefore, the Navy has manufactured a batch of new equipment. This is a gas mask prepared by the headquarters. People who often move around in the new world can arrange someone to go to the logistics department to pick it up later. Originally, this thing was only equipped by Impelton and some laboratories. Most pirates couldn't even get high quality artillery, let alone this kind of weapon. In order to target some of Quinn's abilities, gas masks were installed. The fixed equipment was changed because of one person, which shows how much Quinn is valued. This is an action within the Navy headquarters. In addition, the CP department under the world government is also taking action. A large amount of information is collected from all over the world and transferred to Vegapunk by the CP department. He is a genius in research, but O'Hara's information has been packed away with his classmates, which has led to Vegapunk's lack of research on some things and forced to rely more on the world government. As the controller of the world, they have much more knowledge than others. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.